So like looking at specifically remember the impression that the mysterious gather of that like right now showing up walking towards like the plane right now like the plane is about to land and basically for like the whole exchange with Pakunoda bringing on and Kilua and basically Moravia about to make the exchange with and everything. That basically that perception that's like walking towards like the plane would be the perfect Hisoka. It's definitely not the kind of Hisoka would be like showing up to basically in a coffee manner for like Hisoka to like basically make his reveal that basically he was like the traitor of like he was like a traitor of like the final group this entire time. Like I'm when like Hisoka totally making that reveal to Chloro precisely right now. That's the scenario that I'm looking right. So that's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like the remember the impression as to like why Hisoka might have entered like the fandom of my personal impression that like and also my personal impression that currently right now like for a long time after seeing like Swan as well as Killua in like the under the exam and so like since then might have been like the point from which like it might have badly want us to like leave like the fandom of it's definitely my personal until then like I'm talking like it might have had uh, that genuine goal to like basically want to have like that ultimate fight against like Floro and to defeat Floro. One was one fight against that Floro and to for and defeat Floro. This goal might have been present within Hisoka until that point. Until this is the day Hisoka might have been gone and killed perfect sometime in like the hundred of them. The thing is another thing is that it has already been revealed that basically Sal as well has attended like the hundred exam along with like Hisoka and like the past like and the like so like that might have been like the initial Hunter's exam from which like Hisoka was like eliminated for taking the life of like a soft certainly my Mr. Emerson. So since the country members have like kind of like had like like kind of said about like the final members that they have not not like such desire for like money or like luxury or stuff like that. Like I'm talking about like the best and sole reason for like Chad as well as Hisoka being back then being in like the Hunter's exam was just solely due to that according to the orders of Chloro. Stephanie was playing so like and also from like Chloro might have definitely had might have definitely be having his like ultimate goal which would be definitely that promises that he might have made to his like best friend back in like the past with listen path is definitely my like to achieve that goal that Chloro might want like the to achieve that goal only for that reason would be like the reason for like Chloro even starting to do like the fan definitely of the inversion. Also definitely of the inversion where I'm speaking also like the galaxy macron or like basically someone trying to follow like the who firmly follows like the ideology of the secretary like this matter might have like something to do might have definitely had something to do with that from that of that friend of flow in extra different path definitely of the range chance that might have resulted in like chloro basically like and maybe it might have been like the wish of like that best friend of Flora before he died that maybe like Flora might have taken that as if like ultimate goal in his life and to achieve that goal like Flora might have created like a manipulation but never the investment so like and like the statue of Flora as well as like Flora might have even changed his name that day uh including like the second name, it definitely might have been like a name that Laura Murdoch changed as well that day to basically represent his like to like represent flow of like as with the rebellion towards like the ideologies of like the Celtic man. Definitely what might have happened. It's definitely my remember. So definitely in the case of Hisoka, like Hisoka, the different like when just watching this for Hisoka, like Hisoka either maybe like the past like since like Hisoka was young, like Hisoka might have had the ultimate goal to like get seriously strong. So like I'm looking like one person that I'm looking like Hisoka even since from like so this was like even while Hisoka had even entered like the under the exam around like Gon and Killua. Even then it's still like Hisoka being able like use his nen powers like I'm looking like that might be either due to like Hisoka entering like the fandom group and basically they are like a floor of probably having the training that might have been given by Flow in like, after like Hisoka joining like the fandom group probably being like Hisoka even while joining like the fandom group might have had like a certain level of speed spread So like on top of that, like Flora might have seen like the potential in Hisoka as well. And on top of that, like basically Flora might have given that the spring for Hisoka, and that might be the reason for like Hisoka obtaining and powers and get becoming exceptionally strong even while entering like the very and reflect the other system about like going to the like one possibility where end of the point like the other possibility where end of the thing is like Hisoka came from his child might have had like that as those which are to like get super strong and basically Hisoka might have trained by himself and might have by himself figured out ways to like really to increase his strength and sharpen his strength and possibility of like Hisoka as well like reaching and achieving then powers like all by himself. That's like the other possibility that I'm looking. So the possibility that I'm looking is definitely that like Hisoka might have been from an extremely wealthy family. So like I'm looking like Hisoka might have just really wanted to like get hold of stronger and so like Hisoka and like Hisoka might have wanted to like leave his home and basically like to basically travel across like the world and basically find strong fight and defeat like strong opponents like to do that like Hisoka first like Hisoka the jar might have been to like get a hold of stronger so like to do that like I'm looking like Hisoka might have gotten like someone who was like especially qualified and a trainer to like basically train people and maybe like so because that being how like Hisoka getting stronger and reaching the point to which like Hisoka being able to like achieve land powers and everything. It's definitely one of them. So like I'm just wondering, like even that trainer if that was like the scenario then that might have happened with Hisoka then I'm just thinking, like even that trainer might have been only been able to like train Hisoka only to a certain level from beyond that point, like Hisoka might have totally gotten the hang of it, and because like Hisoka might have decided to like always self-train. So like maybe like the trainer might have been like a good and genuine trainer with like genuine good example. Like he might have been putting like Hisoka like ways of training, and from that point on, Hisoka might have himself uh, came up with so like I was like maybe that trainer even objecting to like Hisoka's ways of training and Hisoka possibly even taking the life that trainer and maybe like continuing his like a unique ways of like its own kind of like actually probably maybe like a unique and villainous or like a rusty kind of like training and that they like to come out bottom strong up for like the remain half by himself and achieve length and then power by himself. Like the opposite that about it. Anyway, like regardless that the and like the opposite that about the trains like Hisoka even knowing about like the final cross might have to do with like maybe one possibility is with Hisoka basically Hisoka while he was in his like hometown, like basically like maybe kind of as part of like the mission of one of their missions and like the sense of like possibly having shown up to like the hometown where like Hisoka might have been living and basically they are like Hisoka for the first time and like listen to for his eyes that to like just like views of like a from people like basically them while the kind of was like might have been carrying out one of their missions like Hisoka might have the young people back then might have happened to like scenes like the point of like the fan of that can still in love so like that point like really and so I might have really seen like this point of or like I'm looking like it I might have seen like this point of the point of the fan so uh during like one of their missions and basically Hisoka might have while Hisoka saw that like Hisoka might have also found out that they might have found out that he is that like Chrollo, that person Chrollo might have been probably been among the fan of the during that time and during that mission and basically Hisoka might have only seen Chrollo and realized that Chrollo this person is like the leader so like at that point Hisoka might have made it his like ultimate goal in his life to basically enter into this like exactly the perfect kind of somehow usually infiltrating the like the Muslim kind of and basically then for Hisoka since like Hisoka family might have always had that ultimate goal to like be strong in like the world. Hisoka might have set up his goal to like eventually infiltrate into like the final group with that absolute just so like Hisoka could like basically have that one versus one fight against like the leader of that culture that is wrong. It's like Chrollo and basically people like or and defeat and take the life of the all. So they might have formed this goal at that point. It's like the other possible scenario that I was looking. Or like the other possibility, like maybe like the Hisoka might have had this like absolute disaster, like a stronger Hisoka. Once he might have the friendly trained and basically reach like a certain serious level of strength, which like in learning and everything and sharpening his skills. Like at that point, I was next to Hisoka might have started to get bored like because like all the strong fighters that Hisoka would be running into, that Hisoka would be might have been able to like succeed. So like I'm even like even in like the Heaven's Arena, like Hisoka might have been, maybe might have been during then that Hisoka might have been entering into like the Heaven's Arena, training in like the Heaven's Arena. Even then, like I'm like Hisoka might have felt that like the opponents were strong enough to basically to give Hisoka an excitement or like a challenge, excitement of like a challenging fighter might have been along like Hisoka might have been feeling at that point. That might have been when like Hisoka might have so then you might have heard of like some like the of like the attack by like the phantom throw from somewhere or like the phantom throw being so exceptionally strong and basically that along such line thing like the news especially with through the newspaper like maybe Hisoka might have through the news of like newspaper Hisoka might have that possibly being how like the result of for like the feminist like knowing about like the like the panic so that maybe at that point, like Hisoka possibly setting up a score that basically to basically to infiltrate into this group and basically to fight that one was ultimate one was just one fight against the other and to defeat him to take his life that. So like that way, like the goal being accomplished is what I might. So, like it will be amplifying to be like only it might be only one among these like possibilities that might not happen in like his other path by which might have occurred in like his okay entering and infiltrating into like the planning process of new which of the emergency. So like Hisoka might have had this like ultimate goal even after like doing missions with like the kind of thing like at all that time like Hisoka might have only has this like one single goal like Hisoka might not definitely not at all, never even cared about like the growth of like the Phantom group or like their success or anything like at all. Hisoka never might have cared about it. Like from like the moment of like even joining like the Phantom group itself, like Hisoka might have never cared about any of that. Uh, the only thing Hisoka might have always cared about like basically having like ultimate one fight against like failure of like command kind of like claw and to defeat him take his life. So like but still like it might have never been possible for him that's only because of like always like definitely there might have been always Pakunoda and as well as like maybe one more like kind of group member always beside Floro and that will be solely due to like most likely Floro knowing his own knowing his own kind of group members each and every single one of them like kind of like seriously well except for his other like kind of seriously well that basically Floro might be potentially Pakunoda that like Floro would be like trusting like the most so far until this point like until like the point where like Pakunoda had basically betrayed right now like some of them Pakunoda betraying like uh Floro's like expectations and basically prioritizing Floro's life until that point like I'm like Floro's like in like the kind of like the member of like the kind of that Floro might have had that absolute trust like the most trust might have been reflected towards like Pakunoda definitely so like there might have been always Pakunoda beside Floro definitely one difference. And this might have been like the reason that might have always made it impossible for like Hisoka to like have to be able to like have like ultimate one fight against like Loro. It's definitely a different which is so like I'm just like since then Hisoka while being like the fan might have been patiently waiting for like the chance to like get Loro and also that like he could have that ultimate one fight against Loro. Exactly, was the thing, and that might have been during when like I was like Loro might have sent Hisoka as well as Shal off to like the hunters like that, especially because like Loro might have only felt that his like to achieve Loro's like ultimate goal, which would be like the goal, which would be that the promise he might have made to the like because his best friend might have died. So like to achieve that goal, like Chrollo might have felt that basically the current levels of strength of Pakistan and Group won't be that necessary that they would need like even more greater number of members for like and so might be along the lines Chrollo might have been feeling, especially with like it already been revealed as like the benefit members had to be shown to or like showing up to like university itself like basically recently was revealed that the issue of special members had already died like basically so precisely because of like the kind of program was like time like like Flora might have wanted to like increase like the strength and the numbers of like the members of like the family group and maybe to that way to find individuals that would be having like exceptional strength or like exceptional potential that could be like a valuable asset of like a member or like extremely unique abilities that could be like that could eventually end up being such a valuable asset to like the fan group as like a member of like the fan group like such individuals to find such individuals might be like the reason for like Chad as well as like Hisoka eventually ending up in like the under sector exam. They are like Hisoka seeing Gon and Killua and at that point like I was even like Hisoka might have totally at that point like Hisoka might have totally dropped with like ultimate goal that Hisoka might have had until then to like have this like ultimate one versus one fight against Chrollo. Definitely with because like in Gon and Killua like from like the very first time Sokka might have seen like Gon and Killua like in Gon and Killua maybe like Sokka might have been able to like this sense that basically these kids have like such extreme potential and especially like it might just not be like the potential alone. It might have been like their way of like reacting to like a situation and basically all that like it should be like even while putting in a tough spot and even in while in pressure and everything like the way they react to it and everything like it might have only felt that as like extremely unique and out of the box. It's definitely my favorite and that might have been like the out of the box things might have been the strongest which gone that Killua. Yeah, like even Silva as well, like I was like Killua and gone like because I might have at that point from at that point might have seen how to like change his goal and seeing like Gon and Silva as like like ultimate fighters who could like give that ultimate exciting and challenging fight to like Hisoka in like the future once like Gon and Killua will be getting strong usually in like the future about which like Hisoka might have been at that time determined to like ensure that they get strong. So that like just so that like Hisoka could have like ultimate chance to fight against like Gon and Killua. And then to like take their life might have been like the new goal that Hisoka might have set up at that point itself after seeing Gon and Killua. So like at that point itself like Hisoka might have definitely think Bonagil was like far more interesting than Flora. Definitely my preference, even though Flora might have been so extremely superiorly stronger than even to the present day like Flora was like extremely superiorly stronger than Bon and Killua. Still I'm preferring like Zoka like Zoka might have been able to see like Bon and Killua that their future like them eventually turning up into way more of like an interesting and superiorly stronger as well as like an extremely challenging fighter than a whole lot stronger and all these things than Chrollo. Like this might have been what Hisoka might have felt or realized at that point. So definitely so like straight away after seeing Gon and Killua in the 100 times Hisoka might have straight away dropped that goal of that having this like ultimate one versus one fight against Chrollo. And from that point on Hisoka might have only felt like the fan of hope as like a burden to Hisoka, especially was like the which like Hisoka might have only wanted to like get away from and get rid of. It's definitely my good friend. And Hisoka might be well and fully aware that like after joining the fan of Hisoka simply won't be able to like escape like the fan of until Hisoka brings down like Chrollo. Hisoka won't be able to like leave the fan of unless like Hisoka brings down Chrollo because like since like Hisoka after like spending time in like the plan kind of group like Hisoka might have realized that they believe Hisoka that once like joining like the fan group like unless through that like basically unless that kind of group member dies like end up dying like basically that kind of group member has like will be like in none of the fan group members will be have no other choice but to like leave like the kind of group because like if even an individual member of like the fan group even attempt such a thing like basically according to like the rules of the fan group which like Flora might have even revealed to like Hisoka from the join like fan group that is even if like any fan group member decides to like quit like the fan group midway like basically they would be like chased after and basically taken the life of as like the punishment. Like there will be definitely such a thing. So like I'm looking like Hisoka will be well and fully aware of this. So like this will be the precise reason that for Hisoka to like get rid of like the final so when like totally he has to like focus on just Gon and Killua. Like I'm looking like Hisoka might have even after like seeing Gon and Killua Hisoka might have realized that basically so that he would have to like right now decide to like he would have to like right now focus on like getting rid of like the final focus and in order to do that like he would have to like really take the life of Chrollo might have been what Hisoka might have felt at that point, especially when the question. So like on the different like this might be the reason for like Hisoka even telling Kurapika about like I think like about like York City. York City option. I think like during like Hisoka's like fight against like Kurapika during like the later stages of like the under that. I think like what might have happened is totally I was I think like so like anyway what that would be like on purpose by so that to like basically to totally team up with Lucky Talk and basically like him saying that to like Hisoka even saying that to Kurapika would be with that confident that basically and Hisoka even telling I think like having told God that basically Hisoka would be waiting for God to like have his like fight in like the City and all that like basically all that would be like basically and Hisoka even triggering on to like saying like all that would be like Hisoka totally trying to like push Gon and to like trigger Gon just so that like eventually it's like all these things that Hisoka have done like the reading Hisoka might not only expect that for like Gon to as well as sort of get to show up to like the university so that like Hisoka might have been planning on like Hisoka might have totally been totally felt that basically Hisoka even in his like current strength by himself won't be able to like bring down Chloro, especially so like without like separating Chloro from like the others. So like in order to do that, like Hisoka might have done all this and decided to like get in such a way like in a tricky manner to get like Kurapika as well as like Kona Filu as well as eventually show up to like the university. Might have been what might have happened is the human with strangers. So like I was like even though like in terms of something like his Kurapika might have totally even like broken like even Hisoka's like expectations to like how in an extremely brilliant manner like Kurapika right like that might have only even broken like Hisoka's expectations that basically what might have happened right now eventually would be like Kurapika making things like easier for like Hisoka. So it's like Kurapika right now having put having imposed like the condition onto like Laura like so like Laura right now being in like a situation where like he can't even is forbidden from using any of those like non-power like this number like for as to like how Hisoka might have definitely found out about this and this would be like the sole reason for like Hisoka right now walking towards like the plane. So definitely Hisoka that would be like right now walking towards the plane during like the exchange. So the clear of the plane and the confidence for Hisoka to do such a thing would be precisely because of like Hisoka having learned of like the current situation with like Chloro, with like Chloro having lost his manpower, being confident from using his manpower, just living to preempt the children. So like from Hisoka's point of view, Hisoka might be totally feeling that basically even if like and Hisoka might have set up this as like ultimate goal even from after like seeing Gon and Killer, Hisoka might have set up this as like the ultimate goal. That's to basically that like Hisoka would be able to like leave the Phantom Group if like Hisoka if he would like take floor of like if Flora becomes powerless, definitely like the Phantom Group like even if it has like a new leader like still that new leader won't be like efficient enough to like basically to be able to like chase up to like still like the whole absolute coordination within like the Phantom Group would be still lost. Would be one thing that is automated only figured, especially with like right now with like the whole situation and exchange Flora and everything, like especially with right now, like even in like Flora's absence, like basically like the Phantom Group totally being divided and basically even fighting amongst each other all that happening, like the quarrel and everything happening between each other, like divided opinions and everything happening between like the fans of like Zora might have been this entire time that absolute blue that might have stuck like the fandom group together and given like the fandom group that absolute coordination and teamwork and everything. It's definitely one of the so like after spending time with like the fandom group, Zora might have been together. So like from the Zora's point of view, Zora might have been only thing this entire time that is really like if like Chloro is brought down, then like Hisoka would be having like absolutely nothing to worry about like the remaining fan group like basically that absolute coordination like in a dedicated manner like fighting like chasing after like Hisoka and fighting Hisoka like basically even getting rid of like the remaining fan group like Hisoka might have felt eventually at some point in like the future even if they take up Hisoka like that would be such the half task if uh, Chloro is like brought down might have been along the line like Hisoka might have felt. So like this entire time like while Hisoka was saying that he wanted that ultimate one versus one battle against like Chloro, or Hisoka might have wanted to be just Chloro that so that like Hisoka could be finally free from like the Phantom group and leave like the Phantom group. It's definitely not the impression. So after like Kurapika that used impose certain condition on Chloro and after like Chloro certain powers, like after like how exactly Hisoka might have learned of it, might have been either through like Kurapika, maybe since like Kurapika and Hisoka definitely might have been definitely might have had like since like it has already been revealed that they are like working together, like Hisoka even like approaching like Kurapika to like with like the intent to like work as a team earlier, like I'm also doing definitely Kurapika either might have phone or like message Hisoka. Just like each and every single updates to the send that time. It's also like about the that I'm also so like Kurapika might have message Hisoka once like Kurapika had like cancelled off info selection and condition which like forbid like Chrollo from using like gunpowder. Like at that point itself, Kurapika might have message Hisoka about like the updates. Might have been one possible scenarios like how Hisoka might have learned of Chloro right now not being able to like use his manpower. That's like and that will be so for like Joker right now working towards like play. So like this is like the one possible scenario as like how Joker might have learned of like Chloro using his manpower. Like the other possibility that I'm also trying maybe that since like the end condition that like Kurapika had imposed on like Pakunoda uh, was that basically like Pakunoda was not supposed to like spread information about like Kurapika to like the other like after like the exchange. So like I was like after like having like Pakunoda as well as like Loro having like the conditions imposed by South Africa. And after that, like when Pakunoda had returned back to like the final group, like I was like maybe yes, like I'm also wondering, like even after that, like I'm just thinking that at that point, like Pakunoda might have definitely kept that information a secret from like the remaining fandoms of members. So might have been definitely what might have happened is definitely with the random that like basically that Chloro has lost all his like power, like that thing, like that crucial information about different Pakunoda might have earlier kept the secret from like the remaining fandoms of members, precisely because of like Pakunoda and only prioritizing Chloro's life and Chloro's safety. So Pakunoda, since like there was already a quarrel between like the split of opinion between like the council members, even while in the events connecting to like the exchange of like Chloro, even while they all thought that Chloro had all power, like under the like uh, Pakunoda might have strongly felt that basically she revealed to like all of them that Chloro has lost his like powers as well. Like and even won't be able to like as part of like the second condition that Chloro won't be able to like Pakunoda might have totally felt that like if like the remaining panel group members like learned of like that crucial information, like they would be like straight away showing up during like the exchange, and they wouldn't want like they wouldn't even care about like Chloro being alive or not. Especially since like they would be totally at that point like feeling seeing Chloro as like being useless without Chloro's manpower, so, like would be along the lines like Pakunoda might have totally felt. So like I was pretty like Pakunoda to ensure that Chloro stays alive. Those point Pakunoda might have hid that information from like the remaining planet members. So like I was like even right now, as like Pakunoda has thrown up for like the exchange, like even to that point, like I was like the remaining planet members to be totally believing that once like Chloro would be like that like even if like Pakunoda brings back successfully brings back Chloro alive, like Chloro at that point will be having all of the like members and everything will be along the lines like they might be like even to the point not realizing the truth. The remaining parents members would be like totally unaware of it, the truth will definitely know my personal reimpression. So basically, definitely I'm still into my personal impression that like it would be certainly Hisoka that would be right now walking towards like the plane, and right now I'm also feeling like Hisoka. Like as Hisoka would be walking towards like the plane, I'm also feeling like Chloro feeling like hopeful that basically Flora right now would be extremely disappointed in like Pakunoda. So like I'm looking like with Hisoka walking towards like the plane like and Flora would be totally seeing that, and it's like the scenario that I'm looking. So like at that point I'm looking like Flora would be totally happy that basically like I'm looking like Hisoka breaking like the condition of like Flora because like Flora would totally experience that basically especially like with like Flora having lost his like land powers as well as like ability to like maintain connections with like the Riolans like like Flora would be like even though Flora might not show it like Flora would be still having that extreme desire extreme like maybe like a kind of like a frustration and would just really want like to change for that as soon as possible. So like with like so that showing up, I'm considering like Flora only getting being happy and excited and thinking that this will be game over for like the changes of her team like so like I'm considering like Flora would be like totally which even though like Chrollo would be also expecting that like right now for like the changes are most likely taking Chrollo's life due to like the breakage of like the exchange deal and everything by like the changes, but still Chrollo would be like for number difference to be totally okay. Like the only thing Chrollo would be wanting for would be at this point would be definitely would be Chrollo right now would be desperate to like have like the change user as well as customer like time. So definitely when the primary so like I'm assessment Flora being happy seeing like the dog actually walking towards like the plane. And I'm also like right then like I'm also like Flora opening the door and I'm also like Flora suddenly jumping out of like the plane and as like Flora would be like happily walking towards like Hisoka and Flora would be like straight away telling Hisoka to like basically to like destroy them all like basically at that point I'm also like Hisoka totally smiling at Flora and basically Hisoka making that ultimate reveal that basically he is like he was like a traitor of X-Men from this entire time. Like the making that reveal at that point, like the scenario that I'm supporting. And like at that point, I was supporting like Kurapika as well, possibly like this entire time Kurapika might have been only definitely sitting the man of the that Kurapika don't be might have been sitting on a pay cut. It's definitely one of the brain so like I'm supporting like Kurapika's like fake act of like always being worried and everything. So the world also be like a fake act. And like the fact that like Kurapika would have definitely been working as a team with like Hisoka in that time like that as well. I'm also thinking would be expecting information that Kurapika might have ensured to like not reveal to like go on into or like a real value of yours definitely my would benefit. So like at that point like the such a big shift like kind of like happening for like Floro as well as like one Kilo as well as Leo River like certainly as like Hisoka would be like laughing and the scenario to be like Hisoka laughing at like Floro and basically or like and telling Floro that revealing to Floro that he was a traitor of this entire time and was like working with like and like at that point I was like Kurapika maybe like with a smile like basically Kurapika telling Floro that with, and that time we were working together like basically around this line. It's like this entire time Hisoka wasn't being controlled by me, but like we were like working like voluntarily like we and consciously we were working together at the same like basically Kurapika most likely revealing that it's Floro and Pakunoda at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm looking so like at that point like Floro and Pakunoda being so extremely shocked at that realization is like the scenario that I'm looking so like Hisoka at that point making a lot of reveals to like Floro and Pakunoda is specifically to Floro but it's like the scenario that I'm looking that like basically Hisoka this entire time wanted to like leave the fandom group like for so long definitely I'm like Hisoka after maybe even telling Floro that like after finding Swan and Killua, like I always wanted to like leave the fandom group and basically and like not to like leave like the fandom group like I'm doing like at that point so making all that reveal like that like he wants to like leave the fandom group like I was sure that basically I have to like bring you down to roll on that along this lines and basically and Hisoka also making the reveal that like without you like that basically Hisoka has studied like the final group members and Hisoka knows like the final group members far too well that basically without Chrollo like basically that without Chrollo like the final group members would be like definitely totally like losing their force coordination and would be like fighting would be having that difference of opinion between themselves between each other as to like who gets to be like the leader and basically they would be like fighting each other and taking each other out or getting disbanded. Like kind of from group itself would be getting disbanded without law. We along the lines like President like to like at that point like or confronted a shock to and Pakunoda. Like the scenario that I was in and then I was like Hisoka even telling Chloro that like even if Chloro is like alive right now, like still Chloro is just without this like manpower would be also along the lines like Hisoka and the different to tell Chloro like Hisoka then telling Chloro that basically that if like Chloro even returns back to like the final group so if like at the moment like the final group even finds out that like Chloro doesn't have any of the like manpower itself like at that point like the final group members like now like the kind of members would even like accept Chloro as their leader or like would it's definitely along the lines that Hisoka would be like or constantly telling Chloro like the scenario that I'm the right. So like I was like Hisoka telling Chrollo that like so like basically like the kind of remember the kind of is like as good as finisher right now. We along the line Hisoka would be like or confidently telling Chrollo and like Hisoka at that point like laughing at Chrollo and basically like saying goodbye to like Chrollo and basically like 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 literally Hisoka straight away walking into like that place along with like Kurapika as well as God Chidua and Leo like Hisoka leading with that plane like the scenario that I'm basically so like at that point I'm preparing definitely for like Floro who would be like extremely disappointed in like Pakunoda for like this for like having done the exchange as well as like not figuring out like Kurapika's weakness, which would be what Floro would only thinking, but like I was like definitely Pakunoda might have totally figured out like the weakness of Kurapika, yet like I'm thinking like Pakunoda. But it is only due to like Pakunoda having such an extreme gratitude towards like Floro that of like Flora possibly might have definitely like the system pass might have totally saved Pakunoda's like in like the Riolan area like I'm thinking there might have been like all sorts of monsters and everything. It's definitely and one of those monsters might have maybe even taken like Pakunoda's like taken the life of Pakunoda's family and might have been like about to then take Pakunoda's life. So like Pakunoda might have been young back then, and like I'm looking like Pakunoda might have not had any powers back then, so like I'm looking like Pakunoda might have so extremely scared for her life, but like at that very last second, it might have been the sorrow that might have taken the life of like that monster and saved Pakunoda. So like Pakunoda might have since then might have had such an extreme gratitude towards like the role that like I'm looking like definitely Pakunoda might have not even want us to like take even while knowing like Kurapika's weakness like Pakunoda still might have not want us to like take even like the slightest when the tiniest bit of like when it comes to like the life of like Flora. Definitely one would be interesting. So this might be like the place reason for like I'm also like Pakunoda totally agreeing to that Kurapika and agreeing to like how like the conditions on both Flora as well as Pakunoda and all that. Definitely my personal reason. So like I'm also like Flora still would be like extremely disappointed in like Pakunoda and I'm also like Pakunoda revealing all this to like Chrollo. That basically it was solely due to her gratitude toward like Chrollo that like she wasn't even willing to like face the slightest risk even though she knew that like the Kenny's weakness and all that like so like at that point and those like Pakunoda saying all this to like Chrollo on their way back towards like the base of the Tyrannosaurus. So like on their way back as they would be like slowly walking like the during the interaction between like Chrollo and Pakunoda they would be saying all this is definitely members of the so like Chrollo at that point, and those were like Chloro pulling out a weapon, and basically Chloro at that point telling Pakunoda something along the lines as if like that you are like a disgrace to like the entirety of like the Spanish force, and basically like the that basically she will be like an obstacle as long as she stays in like the Spanish force will be a burden and along obstacle to that kind of progress long as she stays in like the kind of property along the lines and considering like Cloro would be at that point telling to like an extremely accepting kind of like Pakunoda. Like the scenario that I was even because like I was thinking like Pakunoda might have totally been able to like see this as well coming that basically after like saving soon after like saving Floro, especially since like Pakunoda had gone against like the regions of Floro, like Floro possibly being so extremely disappointed that Floro most likely taking Pakunoda's life. Just as well like, might have been like a scenario that Pakunoda might have actually been able to foresee, which like Lima was brain might have only expected that Lima was brain. So like I was like and accepting Pakunoda like looking down while Floro at that point even without Chloro having any of the manpower, like Chloro, like basically pulling out his like one of his like weapon and basically taking the life of that Pakunoda without using any manpower, like the scenario that I'm going to remembering and my very embracing. And like after taking Pakunoda's life, I'm going to like Chloro still would be confident that basically that even without his manpower, like the fandoms group would be like accepting him would be there will be that absolute confidence contrary to like what Hisoka would be thinking like there will be that absolute confidence in Cloro that like fandoms group would be only accepting Cloro as like their leader once again even if Cloro doesn't have his like manpower like because of like Chloro's like brilliance and everything would be like one thing that Chloro would be like absolutely sure of, and that way like Chloro walking back towards like the kind of base is like the scenarios that I'm considering, and they are like I'm considering like it would be like I'm considering like that the first kind of group member who can shoot pull like out of his like I'm considering like him to be definitely present there, and so like him straight away seeing like taking back on floor would be like making the reveal at that point as well. Straight away making the reveal about like the name condition and everything, and he would be only accepting of floor taking back floor as like a deal. So definitely not the preparation. And I was considering like it would be like I'm considering that precise panel group member who always gets like, who always picks up like the phone call of Kurapika and who always gets angry towards like Kurapika like him totally straight away rejecting Chloro. A Chloro like as like a near without like a Chloro without nine powers as the clear, especially when he brings him and one other kind of remember I was different to be like the only one who would be like again like accepting Chloro back as like when earlier. It's like the scenario that I was doing. But like at that point I was trying to be that precise kind of remember who can shoot a bullet from this like that the kind of remember like him telling them something that would be like totally making them realize a lot of things as to like basically fluoro is essential for like the panel group. Fluoro that glue that basically sticks like the panel group member and that like the panel group as like a group that can even still keep getting stronger at with like fluoro as the earlier like basically like him saying something along the lines of like even if Chloro doesn't like have manpower like among them like basically Chloro is like the only person that Chloro is that person that like then way more qualified than all of the remaining final group members to be like the leader of like the leader of opposition of like the final group. Even Chloro doesn't have its manpower. So we along the lines I'm considering that the final group member convincing like the other two of the final group members that and they're going to be like objecting of like objecting of like having Floro without manpower taken back as like the leader of the independent group. And I was bringing the remaining majority of the independent group members for the agreeing to this like scenario that with like definitely my those impressions are like a correction because like when the scenario that I'm considering is like especially due to like traffic aspect and condition to can't make any connection with like the Riodan members of the kind of still I'm considering like the known Riodan like Sorapika would be totally unaware of like they are being like known Riodan members of the kind of Sorapika might not only assume that like all members of the kind of are like a Riodan up from Riodan definitely Haryoda members will be around the lines for Africa might assume. So like I was like that giving Chloro like an advantage where like I was like Chloro essentially for taking Pakunoda's like I was saying Chloro Pakunoda could definitely have a phone with us. So like I was Chloro taking the phone from like Pakunoda and basically like calling all calling like the specific one of like the known Riodan members of like the fan group to bring all the remaining known, specifically known Riodan members of the fan group alone to like a specific location. So like them alone showing up and like Floro would be like showing up. Floro alone would be showing up there. And I was bringing Floro also telling them a lie that basically that like the changes of like they're asking where Barcelona. So like at that point I'm definitely putting like Floro making the lie that basically Barcelona like was taken by that basically the changes are getting deal and basically that even though they did everything exactly as like the chain use of Wonder, like still like the chain use of like to Pankanoras like would be along the line of like a light that and also the range like Floro to tell those known Riodan members to like change the scenario that I'm doing. That way like an extreme grid forming within like the foundation towards like the changes or even more than ever. Definitely my perspective. Even among like Marchi and Paul Topic, so I think like had basically totally had that same belief as like Pakunoda. So like those excitement of like Koltopi and Machi as well, like realizing that basically that the changes was like totally contrary to like what they had expected, and basically was it's in fact such a villainous gap for taking Pakunoda like would be along the line, and then at that point even think that basically it was like so it was definitely even though until that point they would be totally think that like no bananas that might not have anything to do with like the changes or like at that point them realizing that like it wouldn't just be woven stuff, but also Nobunaga as well as at that point Pakunoda that as well all we do to the villainistic would be the villainistic change user would be the culprit would be along the lines even for the faceless as Marty would be saying. So at that point I was so the feeling of the grave is that for once that Chloro will run back and interacting with and revealing all this while specifically making a light about Sap and all that while all the other things are Chloro basically revealing the truth about Hisoka being the temperature and as for the Nen conditions that was basically placed onto Chloro as well as Pakunoda. And I'm also Chloro totally lying and changing up that story that basically and I'm also Chloro also totally lying about basically what God had told to final problem was about Kurapika keeping her word. If they do exchange properly. And I'm also lying about and saying to the North Yoda members that the changes didn't even care at all about the uh, that the change user is a sad and actually they didn't care at all about the about Bond and it was safety at all. And basically and that the change user had actually had threatened to take both Flora as well as Pakunoda while Pakunoda had initially showed up to where Flora was basically towards the change user. So that was the sole reason for the then conditions being enforced onto Flora and all that might have that happened basically along such lines Flora only lying to ceremony kind of members is also the scenario that I'm going and other generation. So I'm afraid all these things Flora will be revealing to the new Jordan members and to be the connection for Flora to the Jordan members of the final would be from this point on would be along such manner Flora calling up and having a meeting with the non-Riodan members and them uh, revealing all that information to the Riodan members. That's what Flora is doing. So I'm considering definitely after Flora will be revealing about him losing his manpower the non-Riodan members deciding to telling Flora about whether they have to speak with the other members of the band. So that way them talking to the other members of the band of the band, them having that whole discussion. So to move towards the end of the discussion and the different the first band of the number who can take bullets from just review that and improve member and those things will be more figure. Along with Shall would be the exercise to kind of remember that would be that would be totally convincing the majority of the final press that basically that could even in Chloros current and then power left state still Chloro is more qualified than all of them to still remain as their leader. So that way I'm considering would be how and I'm considering them so the other two kind of members would be predicting them finally deciding to agree to the majority having feeling as if they have no other choice but to agree to the majority. So their decision and decision the non-Riodas member non-Riodan member is showing up to later towards law and revealing their decisions to law that they still have this decided and want Floro still to remain as their lead is the scenario that I'm going to delivering and my preference. So definitely my impressions that with even though initially Chloro's intent and plan might have been when the final books had basically for them through the Scarlet Eye basically finding out about Corruptia. Before that I was to make even though Chloro's plan might have been precisely for them to set up that during that night with that absolute mission to basically infiltrate into the second underground option in the second day. Might have been Chloro's plan and they need to loot all the remaining items for the second underground option might have been Chloro's plan. It's definitely not good payment. So by now definitely the second underground option will be totally over by now. So I'm just Chloro taking the decision to at that point to not likely to Chloro would be most likely having might not have least stolen that then ability of that shadow beast member that who can basically minimize and store all the items so my personal impression is that basically that then unique and power of that shadow is that Flora might not have least stolen I'm that power of then power actually how it will be working would be then powers would be required for storage of like items, and basically manpower would be required when like those items would have to be brought out again. So like while after storing like for it to like remain in like its stored like state like I'm manpower most likely not being required technically that's the remember. So like I'm like right now with the fluoro, even though fluoro won't be able to like use its manpower sample, like still fluoro totally having like all of its like plant destroyed, connecting to like the auction and like the most likely the selling of all the like stolen items from like the auctions and all that. But like I'm considering like the scenario or like the situation of Flora at that point would be like Flora having like all of those stolen items from like the first underground auction as well as like from like the uh, second first day of like the second underground auction. Like all these items collectively would be like right now in that Flora auction. Uh, Store minimized and stored due to like Clorox lack of manpower. But like to bring that all those items out, like Cloro would be able to like you would have to use it like manpower, which like due to like traffic accident conditions, Cloro won't be able to do. It's definitely my with so that would be like the current situation for Cloro. It's also like in the scenario that I'm referring. So Cloro would be extremely frustrated because like Cloro will be having like all the items he stored in the position yet like he won't be able to like bring it out. Uh, it's like that being like a scenario for Floro and the situation for like Floro like the scenarios that I'm considering and Floro will be like realizing that and we really Floro at that point being extremely frustrated. It's like the scenario that I'm considering that like I'm considering at that point Floro totally regarding that basically he will be having he will definitely need to like re-strategize a lot of things based on like the end condition of that therapy. He has like re-strategize a lot of things and I'm considering like even more than that like I'm considering like also definitely my considering reasons are like if Turapia dies like I'm considering like maybe like the end condition on like Floro and Pakunoda might be like coming undone. It's also like that might be how like end conditions work. There's also like a possibility that once Turapia dies like Turapia's trainer will would be like time. So like that way it's definitely one of the premise. So like that way, like Cloro and Pakunoda, mostly there will be that positive, like them being free from like the name conditions of Chlorafrica. If Chlorafrica dies, it's definitely one of the remains. Yet like I'm looking like Cloro would be like not at all prioritizing that. Like Cloro would be like not at all. Cloro's photos would be like totally in like concerning up like the kind of project as like a group and basically as of like their next mission and basically to make more money would be like what the only current plan of Solo. And in order to do that, like while having like the research floor having the disadvantage of like the governance and basis of Corapia to properly strategize or re-strategize all that like I'm sure Cloro and to precisely get a proper mission, like next proper mission, like basically for to basically do all this, like figure all this out, like on the point flow or deciding, telling like the non-real members, like to for like the that like basically the final group are right now going to like once again split up until like their next meeting in like the future about which like Floro would be like report in Floro would be like informing them in the future, like Floro saying that and basically Floro leaving and like the non-Riodan members as well as like the through the non-Riodan members, like the Riodan members of the family who passing on this message and like them all leaving like the leaving like the Yorkshire city. It's like for the time being, it's like the scenario that I'm looking at. Uh, so like the flame of the three impressions that I'm thinking on this that basically not only that like basically that the first person who's like walking towards like the flame towards like the location of like the exchange would only be like Hisoka, but like on top of that, like basically like right then itself like with that the Ravika getting a phone call, like even that phone call would be specifically definitely from Hisoka. It's also definitely one of the ambition. Okay, so like definitely my the ambition right now was like since like the sole reason for Hisoka to be able to like get away from like the remaining fan number of members at like the base to making it to like the point of like exchange in the airstrip area, like basically solely due to that Illumin's like body transformation power, like and like with the help of Illumin's sister as well. Like definitely my Mystery position right now as for like how exactly Illumi and Illumin's sister will be like escaping from like the face of like the Banner Group. But with like all those great number of Banner Group members, they are like I'm also like it will be precisely through like a well planned out strategy by Illumi and Illumin's sister. Definitely I was mention that strategy would be most likely ample different. Like Lumi's sister would be also having like the same. body transformation, power up that of Indomie. It's definitely my favorite. So like I'm wondering like not all fan pro members will be right now these present in the fan pro base right now. It's definitely my favorite. So like the scenario that I'm talking about like potentially by the time like Indomie is and about the scenario that I'm saying is definitely Hisoka right now basically so the actual Hisoka right now is only making fun of Chrollo and basically revealing to Chrollo how Hisoka always wanted to be the final group and not to do that Hisoka wanted Chrollo to be brought down. So like now that done I'm thinking Hisoka without any manpower Chloro really not product right will be the confidence of Hisoka and Hisoka saying that to Chloro and Pakunoda and basically Hisoka straight away getting on the airplane and dealing is the scenario that along with Kurapika and others is the scenario that I was doing. So it's just Hisoka would be leaving and something Hisoka straight away. And at that point, I was Hisoka not calling but messaging, even a simple message to sending a simple message to that is late time to leave. So even at that point, Illumi will be in the transformations of that form. The scenario that I was so the strategy of between Illumi and his sister to make that successful escape from the final base will be precisely the scenario that I was looking is for I'm still remember very much Agent sister as well would be having the very same transformation power as Illumi. I was precisely according to their plan, basically showing up to casually showing up to the fan pro place. A fan pro member all of a sudden would be a fan pro member who at that point won't be present among the fan pro member who is present at the base of the fan pro. A fan pro member who's not present there, would be at that point casually walking towards the fan pro base, the scenario that available. So for the remaining fan pro members, totally assuming that one of the fan pro members who walking through there showing up. So I'm that fan pro member will be actually Illumi stuff in this case. So start walking towards the fan pro base and right then itself Illumi transform versus or totally running away from the fan pro base is the scenario that I'm referring. So the remaining fan pro members being confused. So at that point I was Illumi sister transform as a fan pro member telling all the remaining fan pro members to not worry that she will go for Hisoka. And basically that way Illumi as well as transformed as Hisoka as well as Illumi's sister as well transformed as a fan pro member who would be present there at that time. Basically that way then to collectively bring the remaining span of members present in that base and basically that way Illumi and his sister making their successful escape and they'll be quickly making it to a specific location. They might the places the Rodi family are extremely rich they might have had probably a private jet or something and they might have found somewhere not very far from where the random group base would be. So Amazon Lumiere is looking sister quickly making it to that spot and basically then quickly escaping from York City. Is the angel scenario that I'm doing. Definitely I'm something Illumia's will just definitely make that successful escape. It's the scenario that I'm looking for. I'm looking for. So definitely one of the impressions that even though it might be processed through Kurapika that basically Hisoka through Kurapika sending message to Hisoka that most likely Hisoka even might have even found out about Chloro right now not having his net gone due to the net condition placed on him by Kurapika. That would be the sole reason for Hisoka right now even deciding to show up basically to the point of exchange basically and leave the kind of program basically definitely the friends still Kurapika might have even by sending the message Kurapika might have definitely sent that message to Hisoka but still even at that point Kurapika might have never expected Hisoka to show up to the point of exchange is also about development and this might be the precise reason for or I'm suspecting it would be totally a fake act a casual fake act between Kurapika and Hisoka that would be right now going on. Definitely the Hisoka right now telling the threatening Kurapika by saying that he would take the life of Gon and Killua. Basically that definitely would be the last thing Hisoka would be ever wanting to to at all. It's definitely my personal impression, especially with definitely I don't think my personal impression definitely something Hisoka for Hisoka Gon and Killua would be far too precious of an opponent that like Hisoka would be totally excitedly looking forward to fighting in like the future when compared to like Chrollo. Especially even while Chrollo had its all of powers, it's definitely my brother mentioned. And I'm still thinking of my brother mentioned that this like repeated mention by Hisoka about like him so badly wanting to like fight off against like Chrollo. Like basically whenever that was revealed at that point definitely like it might not only game alive and Hisoka might have only lost his like interest of wanting that one was one fight against like Chrollo ever after seeing like Gon and Killua in like the Hunter's exam for like first time. It's definitely my book Ramson that I'm sitting on my book Ramson. Okay, so like definitely my book Ramson right now, but like it's okay right now through like the phone telling to Rabika that basically his target is like the boss only, just for only like the moment he is released, like I believe, like basically this definitely Amazon like would be like such an absolute fake act of like Hisoka. It's definitely one of the impression like because like Amazon like right now for like scenario to be like with everyone worried with like Hisoka showing up and really right now it's example with like Kurapika releasing like the boss to Holo. And after the like at that point like Floro totally being happy because like of like and Floro we totally expect especially the Bible preparation that at that point like what Floro to tell Hisoka to like totally take the life of like Gon and Killua and like take the life of the changes up and take the life of like Gon and Killua. There could be a long time like Floro to straight away telling Hisoka and at that point is when I was in like Hisoka making that absolute shocking reveal to like Floro that basically she was like a traitor like this entire time and basically like the moment Floro would be like released, Kurapika would be like released like Hisoka just saying this dialogue and like maybe like explaining that Hisoka explaining about like how he badly always wanted to like leave the planet this entire time and all that like basically that like he sees like Gon and Silva as like way more of like a precious like opponent even way more than Chrollo, like really that way, like Hisoka maybe like insulting Chrollo as well as mocking and making fun of Chrollo. And Hisoka totally casually getting onto the plane along with like Gon and Killua. And exactly also like definitely that's just the impression right now that is really like on top of everything with like Hisoka right now telling Sorabia through the phone that basically on top of everything like he now wants to his target is like the boss and he wants to like right now fight like the boss. He wants to fight Flora, like basically supplement of the membership right now that definitely so it would be totally a fake act between Hisoka as well as Kurapika. Definitely my first impression. Like both Hisoka as well as Kurapika would be well and fully aware as to like why Hisoka is there. It's definitely Kurapika would be totally aware of like why Hisoka is there. And Hisoka showed up, like Kurapika would be totally aware of like Hisoka even showing up and everything. It's definitely things would be totally smoothly going according to currently according to like Hisoka as well as like Kurapika's plan. So like both Kurapika feel looking shocked and worried and like Hisoka threatening to like take throne and like it was like if Kurapika doesn't agree, like all both of these things would be like totally a fake act. It's definitely my positive impression. So like I'm Hisoka definitely would be like already well and fully aware, like Kurapika might not only inform Hisoka and Hisoka would be well and fully aware that if Moro doesn't currently doesn't have any of it, have lost all of its like manpower and like definitely it is my very impression. So like Hisoka definitely straight away like when Floro were released and everything like Hisoka totally straight away telling Floro that basically after like seeing Gon Killua, he never wanted to like have fight against like Floro at all. He never lost had lost all interest in like Floro and basically that being like the sole reason for like Hisoka even entering like the fan group, maybe around first night where Hisoka revealing to like a shot and Hisoka straight away getting on the plane and leaving. It's like the definite scenario that I'm referring and Kurapika as well at that point like would have like a smile because like uh that would be like the shock for like precisely that would be only a shock for like only like Gon Killua as well as Leo as well as like Pakunoda and Chrollo alone like okay, so like the Filipino contemporary unproduction right now is definitely that like the both airship like the white as well as like the black airship like both would be totally belonging to this water. So definitely not the for like Kurapika definitely won't be like rich enough to be able to like have her own airships and definitely not the version. Kurapika definitely won't be like basically stealing airship either like it's definitely not the version and so like and this like airship won't be like also won't belong to like won't be like the airship belong to her bodyguard. Her boss when she was doing like the bodyguard job. He is the certainly member of the ranger. That all that airship as well might not have left the certainly member of the ranger. So like these two both airships, like the white as well as like black airships, will be totally belong to Hisoka, and Hisoka will definitely be actually from like an extremely wealthy family. Definitely one of the reasons. Think everything that's like happening right now, we're only going to go to Kurapika as well as Hisoka's plan. Both Hisoka and Kurapika putting on a fake act will see what's happening right now. Definitely not the premise and then sitting on. So like them both flying away was like the airship without like the exchange happening, like still them both flying away with like the airship to seeing like basically to like the right kind of like a desired location where like they could like where like Hisoka would like totally have that ultimate fight against Chrollo. Like basically, while everyone would be except for like Hisoka as well as like Sorapika would be things definitely went the frame version. Like in actuality, like definitely what Hisoka would be right now wanting would be to like tell Chrollo a few things. Like basically, he want to make all that reveal about like Hisoka might want to like basically Hisoka would be like not only wanting that whole moment for himself to like have that stop with like Chrollo and basically to reveal to make all the take his time and make all the reveals to like Laura, like why he joined like the Panda Pro and everything. And about like in like the person like him not at all wanting to be a part of like the Panda Pro like not after like seeing Gona Kidwa, like basically what is so like detail out all these things and like to have a moment for like his and the person like without like the without feeling like the possibility of like any other final members showing up to that like airport location would be the precise reason for like the two airship right now flying away from there. So that like Zoka could like so that just so that like Zoka could take his time and basically reveal all that to like Floro. That Zoka knows that Floro doesn't have any power right now and all that like definitely Zoka theme of the like things or all that like so Zoka saying all this to like Floro to stop Floro and Pakunoda and then Zoka like both the blimps like reaching a specific location, landing at a specific location and then Hisoka making all these reveals to like adopt Floro as Pakunoda, and then Hisoka leaving, and then like Hisoka by himself like leaving in like the black airship while one of them like Hisoka would be so extremely wealthy that like so they're okay with like Gon and Killua and like the others like basically taking that white airship is like the scenario that I'm so like Sorapika Gon Leorio and Killua like leaving like them parting ways at that point and basically Gon Leorio and like all of them like heading off in one direction with their airship while like Hisoka would be like going in like another direction. But this like airship and Hisoka would be like maybe like going back home right now. So Hisoka's home right now for the time being is like the scenario that I'm going and this one like as for like Gon and the looks like I'm like them deciding to like basically go to like some specific location for them to like find their rest and relax because like they would all be like totally tired after like the whole situation. And I was running definitely by now like the main York option would be definitely over. It's definitely my impression by this time. So like I was thinking like gone like on their way back I was like gone maybe like realize remembering about like the main option and basically about like gone like hunter's card as well, like being in like your new city. So like basically like still like I feel what I think on that like we can't go back like basically. And basically like for the time being like and then people like Hindu and Oreo like maybe as well as like Hindu and Oreo telling on that we will get it some other way like at some maybe like we will come back to like your city and let some other point basically or like through some other way like we'll try to get back like understand will be along the line Kilua and Leorio will be telling them and comforting on. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. Only like the main option will be over by then. So like on the strings, like on like quickly calling that such person that like have basically helps them out in like the whole option situation, like for them to like prepare for like the option and make money like that person like I'm also like gone calling him and basically asking him if he was if he participated in like the main York new option for them. because they couldn't make it like, and basically if he got like the Great Island game, and I was like him totally telling God that basically that he participated, like he might have definitely participated in like the many of options, but like he didn't get like the Green Island game. It was like another like maybe like a matter of 7 or 8 copies of like this I think like was sold put up for like the main of what to be like put up for like, the main options like on the still it might have been like the very same situation that like all those copies like basically being bought by that in like the many of them as well like by that person who has the hobby of collecting all the great writing games. It's definitely my personal way of option. So like even Kilo's brother as well. Kilo's other brother as well who had basically showed up to job university just to buy the great writing game like somebody like things too might have participated in like the many of them still just like money as well. Might have not been enough. So like teams as well might have been sort of frustrated and affect the main job thing as well will be like on this way going back to like Zoldyck to like the Zoldyck estate, like the scenario that and those other things. And and I'm still saying to my brother impression as for like how exactly Gone would be getting finally getting a chance from like the rewriting game. I'm brother like it could be like not through like an actual copy of like the Grey Island game, but like it could be through like the Grey Island game that was like ported out by Kilowatts like other products like basically in his like computer like basically using manpower onto that like I'm looking like Gone and Kilowatt. Maybe like Kilowatt like other products as well. Or like just Gone and Kilowatt like them slowly getting built into like the career dining game. When they will be using manpower also like the when Kilowatt other product would be like once again showing them and will be like telling them that something is missing. So like him running like the code and at that point like maybe like Gon and Phil are figuring out that maybe then would be that missing condition. So like them using their men powers like onto like the computer especially while like the code would be like run by Killer brother and at that point like the creating game actually are running and this straight away like Gon and Killer or like Gon Killer and Killer brother like getting pulled into and falling into like the world of like the career game is like the eventual scenario that I'm considering the impression that I'm sitting on. Okay, so like definitely the impression right now as well like Hisoka right now in like the villains who are like Hisoka, John, Killua as well as Pakunoda as in like basically Hisoka shuffling card and basically picking up one card and basically looking at it and laughing at it would be precisely due to my own impressions would be precisely due to like that card being like the card of Joker and I'm like Hisoka right now would be like totally seeing like Chrollo as like the Joker. It's definitely my best friend that who got like only thoroughly tricked by Hisoka and Kurapika. It's like my personal impression as for like the reason for like Hisoka laughing while looking at the card to be perfectly due to that reason. It's definitely my personal impression. Yeah, so like definitely the personal impression right now is definitely for like the exchange feedback for like goes smoothly. That's definitely my personal impression and especially like right now tense music and like don't tend to do like walking towards like for African towers uh while Floros like walking towards where like Hisoka is like basically that's definitely as like Gon and Killua and Floro are passing like walking towards like each other like basically definitely Chloro won't be like definitely preferring Chloro to like not attempt to like basically to use such like forcefully uses like manpower and at like the cost of like his death like trying to like take Gon and Killua like basically that way, like solo, even attempting is definitely not a scenario at all. But I feel definitely putting like the exchange would only go smoothly and Floro not doing not even a single thing and like Floro making it walking all the way towards like Hisoka and Hisoka won't be at all stopped at like basically Floro basically telling Hisoka is like the scenario. Floro is only assuming that basically Hisoka after Floro especially after like Pakunoda and Floro having heard how like Hisoka uh, just now with like them having heard like how Hisoka badly wants his like ultimate fight against like Chloro. Like I'm looking like Chloro and Pakunoda they totally uh, thinking that basically Hisoka is now fight then is going to be getting to be look like a fool on realizing that Chloro doesn't have any of his like can't use any of his powers like basically, but like at that point will be when like I was like Hisoka, Chloro as well as like Pakunoda getting put. that made to like look like the feeling as if like they are so when like Hisoka will be like laughing at that or like smiling at them. And basically like with like Hisoka not at all being shocked with like a Chrollo at that point would be like only revealing with like a smile on Chrollo's face like I'm looking at Chrollo. Okay, you're revealing to like Hisoka that like I can't even use any of my mentors like basically, at that point, like Glorobit as well as Pakunoda bit only expecting like an extreme shock from Hisoka's side, and as in like Hisoka feeling as like he had gotten tricked, but like I was like them not getting that, and Hisoka totally like smiling back at like Chloro and telling Chloro that he knew all along that they will be with like the scenario that I was bringing into the impression, and that being like the biggest stop for like Chloro as well as next biggest stop for like Chloro and Pakunoda like scenario that I was bringing into the yes, so like the new version right now is like Surabi got like second then condition to like Soro being like any sort of like verbal communication or like physical contact with like a Ryodan would mean like certain that like I'm still like Hisoka definitely won't be at all like a Ryodan. So definitely I'm going so like definitely I'm also bringing like not just a little but like a lot of like verbal communication right now after the exchange happening between like Hisoka and Floro. It's definitely like those scenarios that I'm also out in the frame. And yet like I'm also bringing there not being any physical contact, like there are not being any fight at all. It's like also like the scenario that I'm also bringing. Yeah. So that definitely was it's very interesting that I'm shooting on those definitely for like right now for that to not only be fighting between like Hisoka and Floro, but like also for like Hisoka to like not take the life of Floro either. It's like the scenario that I'm going to bring, and it was only due to like even though like the current situation even is like basically just like Pakunoda and Floro and Hisoka all alone like basically even though if like Hisoka right now tries to take Floro like basically Pakunoda won't be able to like stop it. Like I'm also something like that's definitely my opinion. So yeah, still I'm also like Hisoka solely due to like Hisoka's extreme overconfidence that Hisoka we are having right now that basically that Chloro without his manpower, like basically um, won't be ever able and with like him not being able to like, communicate with this like everyone and like computer and like uh, this would be all be discussed by like Korafi and Toyota. So like still thinking members of that. And so like definitely that there will be like all this knowledge like you're going to be having that absolute or confidence thinking that basically Chloro in this like current situation helpless kind of like a situation won't be ever be able to like ever be able to like be a threat to like or even come after like Shizuoka in like the future from this point on. Neither Flora nor his like kind of group would ever be able to like be the threat to like Shizuoka anymore from this point on. Threat or even a burden to like Shizuoka ever in like the future would be that overconfidence that Hisoka would be right now having. Especially when we understand that I'm thinking also, and solely due to that overconfidence, Hisoka right now making all sorts of revelations that making and making fun of Nightclaw, and basically then Hisoka straight away like, getting on to his like blimps, I mean like airship, and basically leaving Patinora and Floro there. It's like the scenario that I'm going to benefit and not go to the emphasis. Yes, so like the name of the Korean question right now is like right now as like this sort of having removed like the spider tattoo and it's back and basically reflect only getting ready and pumped up to like fight Floro and it's like basically putting out his like name or like basically Hisoka doing all that even as well would be totally a fake act, totally solely intended just to like shock Floro and make fun of Floro when Hisoka will be making the reveal. And the reveal I'm definitely right now predicting would be like Hisoka that much great delight or telling the Rolo that like as if I would like totally look forward to like fighting someone who basically totally got outsmarted by like Kurapika and outsmarted and is now powerless by like Kurapika and like those kids like basically as if I would be like totally looking forward to like fighting someone like with Rolo like basically Remon like basically like and then I'm going to be like his own revealing to Rolo that basically that initially when Hisoka specifically then telling Roro that like I wasn't lying about like basically like me joining like the final group with the intent to like fight Roro, but still was like Hisoka revealing that like all that changed like from like the moment I saw Gon and Silva in like the uh, and maybe Kurapika as well. In like I saw them all that changed since I saw them in like the Hunter sequence. Would be along the lines of what I was saying, and like they are far they have way more potential than Leaf Chloro, and that's the reason why Chloro right now Leaf Chloro like right now in like the current sad state or like a situation in which you are in would be along the line that I'm going to like to talk about to totally make fun of and mock role of right now. It's like the scenario that I'm going to totally for like actually totally like putting his like shirt back on and like so totally casually going up to his like it's like the scenario that I'm going to bring and telling Pakunoda to like get out and I'm going to bring like so totally like leaving Pakunoda as well as Floro there and basically flying off the jet airship. This much is like the scenario that I'm going to bring and I'm going to bring much. So like I was very impression as for like the scenario to be like even after like so I would be saying all the sense mocking and making fun of Floro and would be turning and basically turning back towards like the airship and basically walking away from Floro. Like I'm looking like Floro and Floro the entire time when I would be mocking it and making fun of Floro. It's like the scenario that I'm with Floro remaining totally silent. It's like the scenario that I'm with and White Hisoka would be turning back and walking towards like the his like airship to leave like as Hisoka would be walking towards like airship like the only thing that I'm was trying for Floro to tell Hisoka in like a response would be that we'll see again like basically that would be like the only dialogue that I'm referring like to tell Hisoka with like an absolute smile without like any sort of like irritation or like frustration like I was like with that absolute confidence like I was like Floro at that point. Like the only dialogue he is just telling Hisoka would be that like he'll see again and I was like that totally kind of like being like giving like kind of like a tiny bit of like a context feeling towards like Hisoka, like the scenario, kind of like irritating Hisoka, like the scenario that I'm talking about, but like Hisoka still continuing on towards like doubling and flying away is like the scenario that I'm looking for things and my personal reaction. And so like I'm literally putting like a Hisoka versus Floro fight, an actual pro fight, like after like Floro eventually somehow managing to like break free from like the net conditions of like Kurapika. And those are like eventually maybe like the figure like I was like Kurapika getting some sort of like a health issue or like a disease and basically that causing like Kurapika's like net conditions that like Kurapika might have placed on other like to basically come under all those net conditions that Kurapika would have placed on others like coming undone at that point. And number when it will be coming undone, number something like Floro, wherever he is in like should be in like the world at that point, like Floro would be able to like sense that like his like net conditions that like in person like feeling has the feeling like that due to like certain condition like that certain condition has been undone like that when that happens when I'm referring to that happens for Chloro and but Chloro like at that point Chloro would be able to like sense that it's like the scenario that I'm referring and that way I'm also like Chloro getting back all of his powers and I'm definitely putting like Chloro from that point on like basically definitely like some very distant views around something like that absolute fight actually happening between like Hisoka and like a Nen powered Chloro, like the scenario that I was referring and that fight I'm definitely putting like Hisoka most likely losing against like Chloro. It's like a definite scenario that I was like Chloro not showing any mercy at all at that point in like the case of Hisoka. It's like the scenario that I was referring maybe I was bringing that to the other point when like I was the very distant when like a Gon versus like Chloro fight it would be less happening possibly maybe happening at that point in like the future. And maybe like definitely Chloro not being like Chloro won't be like taking the Joker's life but like the scenario that I'm looking for is like a Chloro would be about to take his Joker's life but that very last second would be when like Gon will be showing up and infiltrating into that battle and basically the Gon versus Chloro battle happening and I was something in that battle down with different attack. And though Bond by then would have gained a lot of strength and grown a lot stronger. Like Amber when Bond like basically starting that fight with Floro while Bond's current strength at that point as well to see like lesser than that of Hisoka. But like Amber like Bond using all of like out of the box tricks and strategies like trying to like fight and bring down Floro. And I was going through that fight like Bond like learning a lot of things and eventually through that fight like I'm looking at Chloro would be pushing gone to limit like and will be able to take Laura will be able to take gone like at that very last second like basically some sort of like a hidden power like basically awakening within that gone. You should be like extremely powerful and with that power like gone only destroying and offering and defeating and possibly even taking the life for all at that point in that fight in like the teacher and when that happens I'm considering like I'm considering that happen and at that point like what Hisoka the great Hisoka basically badly injured and defeated and watching all that happen from like the sideline. It's like the not succeeding the like Hisoka failed, like basically Hisoka painfully like witnessing that from like the sideline. It's like the scenarios that I'm considering that. And my favorite episode that won't be like painfully that is what I would be watching that. Like maybe if I would be watching that with that absolute excitement as well because like the ultimate power gone at that point that Hisoka would be most likely seen would be like the kind of fighter that Hisoka might have this entire time might have been patiently waiting to like fight over again. So like Hisoka would be like totally like happy and excited that basically he would that he has finally achieved that basically ultimate fighter thing gone that basically he can eventually be able to like fight. So like then Hisoka that after that incident and with Hisoka heading back and like basically training even more explosively hard and basically getting a whole lot stronger to like eventually have that ultimate fight against God and that fight happening in like the even more of like a different user and basically in that fight like that would be like the ultimate final showdown fight ultimate final fight between like Gon and Hisoka in which as well like even though Gon would be like throughout like the battle would might be like and by then like Hisoka would be a whole lot stronger so like even though in that fight majority of like that fight Gon with this but still Gon eventually only overpowering and defeating Hisoka it's like the scenario that I'm like the other thing. But definitely gone way taking his daughter's life, but like at the point, Hisoka finally eventually finally getting defeated by Gon. And at that point, like Hisoka only uh, being forced to like accept that like Gon has finally surpassed Hisoka that they will. Hisoka may be feeling that at that point that he has reached his limit and they will he simply won't be Gon definitely maybe Hisoka comes to being forced to like accept that Gon is definitely from that point on won't definitely able will be able to like or and debate Gon. That basically such scenario was like happening in that was like related to the also like about the rather about the Okay, so like the name of the Korean version right now has got like Pakunoda right now betraying like Chrollo and basically leaving Chrollo to die while Pakunoda leaves with like Hisoka on the airship. Like I'm definitely putting to be precisely and solely due to like Pakunoda and the different reveal of like the galactic matter daughter own daughter. It's definitely my Korean version. So Pakunoda might be like the daughter of like, the galactic matter. Definitely not the different. So like I'm just really my different that like in the distant past it might have been maybe it might have been like someone who might have been following the ideologies of like the galactic man who might have totally taken the life of like uh, the like was like the best friend of Chloro in like recent past is like the scenario that I'm about to bring. So like it's dying it might have been to like destroy like destroy everyone who follows like the ideologies of the galactic man and to destroy like to take the life of like galactic man as well might have been like line with Flora with so like I'm just saying like Flora might have even started like the kind of tools like only that achieve that promise that Flora might have made to that Flora was like a dying friend at that point of like the scenario that in the so what might have happened in like the past is name of the same so like I'm just saying like definitely what might have happened would be that so my impression of like what might have happened would be like after like Flora that friend might have died like a friend like Flora might have been extremely enraged with like the galactic matter and like the ideologies of like the galactic matter that like different like Flora might have straight away taken the life of like the person to follow like the ideologies of galactic matter to might have totally taken the life of Flora but straight away like after like Flora's friend has died like that rage that might have awakened some sort of like a power in within like Chloro and within that power Chloro might have taken the life of the person who might have taken the life of the Chloro's best friend. And then like a movement Chloro might have totally vowed to himself that basically he would like totally revolt and ensure like the destruction of like all the big shops across like the world who follows like the ideologies of the galactic matter. And he will like start this like a revolt by for like a rebellion by for taking the life of like the galactic matter and then destroying by exploring like like the ideology of like the all the books also follows like the ideologies and perhaps like the ideology of the right might have been like the decision that like so back then might have taken. Definitely I would then like first like straight away Flora might have even before like starting like random for what Flora might have done might have been and Flora might have been so young back then. So like what Flora might have done before even starting like the fan group might have been like Flora might have like separated into like the form of galactic matter and might have taken the light galactic matter. So famous. So like back then like I was like during that attack of Flora, which resulted in like the assassination of galactic matter like I was like that single witness in that form of galactic matter who might have survived without throne of knowledge might have been certainly Pakunoda. Definitely Pakunoda might have been the lead that of like galactic matter and Pakunoda might have only secretly witnessed like that of the galactic matter by Flora. Definitely one of the famous. So Pakunoda since then like might have had that absolute like that like that memory of like and Pakunoda might have been so extremely fond of like another like psychotic man who's definitely understand that but like my personal impressions are like so like my personal impressions are like seeing like the death of her mother like the galactic man by like the hand of like Floro might have been such a shock to like go Pakunoda back then that like I'm looking like that shock like that those memories of like that incident might have never like like Pakunoda's mind that I'm just going like that those memories might have been haunting Pakunoda even as like Pakunoda grew up that like I was like eventually that memories might have of Pakunoda to like have that extreme rage eventually as Pakunoda grew up he might have had that extreme rage towards like that cat who had taken the life of her the galactic matter. So like that rage eventually might have evolved into like that absolute sense of like wanting to get revenge and take the life of revenge for like that absolute sense to like that way get revenge on Floro for like taking her mother's life. Might have been formed that such a desire might have formed within like Pakunoda, like Pakunoda to work. So like by then like as Pakunoda to work like by then Floro might have basically like formed his like fandom group and everything is between this. So like as Pakunoda group like Pakunoda might have somehow might have gotten intel like all sorts of information and everything connecting to those gaps and basically might have found like the details and might have realized that basically he's like the head of like this that organization of the fandom group and all that. Definitely going to remember, you know, like maybe like maybe it might be through like a newspaper like article or something like maybe like it might have been put on the news or like Flora might have been on the news or like it might be through like the newspaper that like the next time like Pakunoda she grew up like the next time she had seen like the face of like this very same person who had taken her mother's life. The next time she saw might have been through like the newspaper or through the news that might have been like the news of like the fandom group maybe by wiping out like the profile line is definitely my particular impression. So maybe that might have been what might have happened. So like I felt like at that point, like I'm just like Pakunoda might have it might be at that point that Pakunoda might have realized that that Floro that very same person who's like the life of her mother, the galactic mother, right now like the head, the needle of like the this group winner is like the fandom sources. So like I'm just like at that point like Pakunoda might have decided to like basically infiltrate into like the fandom group so that like people like eventually get revenge by taking Chrollo by taking Chrollo's side. Might have been like the plan of Pakunoda. So like with that plan, like I looked like Pakunoda might have went to that location where like all the Ryodan live, the Stefania to the so like they are like and like Pakunoda might have and by then like in Pakunoda might have with that episode with that to like eventually get revenge and like a Chrollo like Pakunoda might have trained extra hard. Definitely might have mentioned that like Pakunoda when she was like kind of like she might have been kind of like confident of her abilities like she might have already went to like the location where like all the Rodan live. And they are like on the train like with that scene of like Pakunoda being scared of like a monster where like you can like explore over stone like the east. That might have been like Pakunoda like plan to like get Floro to like pick up to the as like a as like a new member of the family for that in order to like invert trick Floro and infiltrate into like the family group. Pakunoda might have played such a trick back then in that about after going up to the repetitive of like the evidence living that where like this monster was like in the perspective of Pakunoda might have had like even back then to spend to like defeat that monster like Pakunoda might have played like the fake icons like street low only helpless and vulnerable by ensuring that Floro was like nearby might have seen what Pakunoda might have done so that Floro might have like taken the life of that monster and might have that way Pakunoda might have kept up fake act into like basically usually resulting in like Pakunoda like going through like her being chosen by Chrollo to be a member of the battle force might have been what might have happened if the team was remembered. So like this entire from that day on like this entire time like Pakunoda might have been patiently waiting for the day that she could like get revenge of Chrollo by taking shift and stake Chrollo's life. Just definitely memorable and this would be like the best reason for like and it would be only right now in like the present that Pakunoda might have been able to like achieve uh, goal would be along the lines Pakunoda right now would be thinking as like she has gone in she has as like right now Pakunoda has gotten into like the airship along with like Hisoka and has left Chrollo to die in that cliff with like Chrollo without even Chrollo being able to like use his number having no other way to like get down of like the top of like that cliff but like still, my personal reimbursement to that Floro is definitely going to survive. It's definitely going to reimburse. And like how exactly Floro is surviving, definitely going to reimburse to that like also definitely going to reimburse to that like first of all as to like how exactly Pakunoda might have Hisoka might have formed a team of like Pakunoda I'm going to bring that definitely might have been through like Hisoka like at some point like while being in like the final pro base like at some point like Hisoka might have coincidentally by sheer luck Hisoka might have ended up seeing like the photo of like the galactic map with like Pakunoda. Pakunoda while she might have Pakunoda might have thought that she was all by herself in like the base in the banner room like maybe like the remaining kind of group members might have had out temporarily for the time being, while like Hisoka might have and it might have been Pakunoda at that point, or perhaps that's been like the and at that point, like Pakunoda might have only felt that she was all alone. So like she was looking at what of her mother, like erratic mother. So like Hisoka might have by then like returned to like the base of the Panda group and there like Hisoka might have luckily seen like the Pakunoda looking staring at like the photo of like this that person the galactic madam and especially like it's already revealed that the galactic madam is kind of like an extremely popular person, used to be an extremely popular person. I'm also trying I believe Hisoka might have straight away recognized the photo as like the photo of like the galactic map. So like Hisoka might have only questioned Pakunoda and like Pakunoda might have that way like Hisoka might have found out about like the galactic map and being that Pakunoda's like mother whom like Floro had taken the life of. So like that might have been like the point in like the past when like the alliance, secret alliance between like Pakunoda and Hisoka might have happened. This is definitely my consideration. Also definitely with the reintroduction right now is that basically even though right now Pakunoda and Hisoka will be like probably overconfidently think that basically with them leaving by the airship while leaving Floro all by himself while leaving Floro to die all by himself while Floro is like on the top of like an extremely tall and steep cliff with like Floro not having the like mentor Floro having like no way to like get escape from there like basically yeah, like I'm considering Chloro definitely is suffering and the reason would be precisely because of like Chloro's brilliant strategy with like this like Chloro might have used precisely without like coincidentally and actually without that both Pakunoda as well as like Hisoka without like the Pakunoda and Hisoka's knowledge nor like I'm considering like the knowledge of like the remaining majority of its fan. I'm considering like, it might have been only sort of piece that would be like photocopy and the point like saying that sole reason for like Floro being able to like survive from like the current situation in which like Floro is in current abandoned situation in which Floro is in like considering Floro being able to like survive solely due to photocopy is like the eventual scenario that ended up exactly because like I'm the precisely when like Floro had kind of like figured through like the problem point like I think like Floro had probably figured that the chain user is like a member of like the class has started like at that point like when Floro had thought about how people like basically use the original Scarlet Eyes to like trace like the fake Scarlet Eye. Like at that point itself, like Floro might have totally foreseen like the possibility that like the chain user possibly definitely upsetting Chloro. It's definitely since like Chloro is like the leader of like the group that had wiped out like the entirety of the pipeline. And since like Chloro at that point was totally thinking that like Kurapika would definitely be a member of the pipeline, definitely Chloro might have expected like Kurapika to like attempt such a thing like to like abduct Chloro or something. So like I was saying Laura might have taken precaution even back then, it's definitely memorable. And that precaution might have been most likely either, most likely it might have been like a stone, that Laura might have only picked up a stone and might have stored photocopies to like create using photocopies like conservability to like create like a clone, a fake clone of that stone. And basically what might have happened would be that so like my consider pressure that like what Chloro might have done back then as like a person might have been that Chloro might have put like the stone in that Chloro's pocket and might have the fake stone, the fake clone stone of it like that Kotopi might have created like another like Kotopi might have kept that stone with like Kotopi. It might have been something that might have been done without like the knowledge of like the remaining channels of members, even including like as well as that Pakunoda in the back bench. Definitely might have been that Flora might have done that in secret with like Kotopi even way back then as like a precaution. Definitely not super. So like I was like Kotopi might have actually and Flora might have told Kotopi to like seriously put in effort into like basically creating that clone with that absolute perfection so that like fake clone of that stone with that absolute perfection so that like that stone, the fake stone would like stay or like remain without like disappearing for like great number of hours or like even days. Might have been what the order that Flora might have given to like philosophy and that exactly might have been philosophy what philosophy might have done to secondary memory. So like right now that that stone would be what anticipating would be most likely saving Flora in like Flora present current abandoned situation with like no neighbors and no way to like get out and the scenarios would be like right now considering that with that Pakunoda right now leaving with that Hisoka with like the airship and considering that Pakunoda Hisoka most likely that airship would probably belong to like Hisoka. So like I'm considering like Hisoka totally dropping Pakunoda at like some other airport at some other city and basically from there like Pakunoda and considering like most likely heading back to maybe the home or like I'm considering like Pakunoda going on her own journey to like somewhere else away from like your recipe. It's like the scenario that I'm describing. So like Pakunoda would be totally openly assuming that basically she has achieved her ultimate goal uh, to basically get revenge and take the life of like the of Chrollo, the person who might have taken the life of her mother, like the galactic map. That's like the situation with like Pakunoda that I'm describing. And as for Hisoka well, so it only was confident that like she has basically taken the life of like Chloro and basically Chloro definitely dying. So like with Chloro that like basically like the kind of group won't be able to come under Hisoka will be along the line. Hisoka would it only mainly assuming it's definitely remembering or something else in it's definitely remembering. But like the scenario that I'm going to bring is definitely that like especially that the remaining kind of group members like along with that Kotopi will be patiently waiting for like the calls from Pakunoda. Precisely after like the exchange, precisely according to the Pakunoda's word, like they would all be like probably maybe even the majority of the members will be patiently waiting for like the call from Pakunoda saying that the exchange was like successful and basically they are on their way to return back to like the base. But like I'm considering that phone call not at all happening. And I'm considering Pakunoda after like right now with like Pakunoda leaving with like the Pakunoda and considering straight away will be destroying her phone, which will be like the phone that like the fan members will be probably that I've been using to like contact Pakunoda definitely. So like I'm considering Pakunoda while leaving from with like Hisoka and considering like Pakunoda will be destroying that phone. So like I'm considering but I also remember patiently waiting until the expected time for like Pakunoda to make the phone calls after like the exchange. Like basically they'll be waiting until that point and basically since like the scenario that I'm going to bring is like even after that time would be passing, like basically they won't be getting any phone calls at all from Pakunoda at all. I'm going to bring like then like the fan group members like getting worried and I'm assuming that that exact fan of member I had who had like such extreme rage towards like Kurapika was like totally unwilling to like trust Kurapika at all, like him totally starting to like feel that really he was right all along that like the changes have totally tricked them again. So like those when like it will be that and but like him starting once again starting like quarrel between like the final other final members. So like at that point I'm considering like thought of him most likely like picking up like checking like the fake stone and using all of this counter power like on thought of like being able to like sense that basically the stone with like fluoro the direction of like the stone with fluoro is like the scenario that I'm talking about. So like thought of maybe at that point would be revealing that basically about the stone like him having like the either like about like thought of having like the fake stone and basically Chrollo having like the real stone or something. And basically at that point, like with that, like I was even like the fandom problem was like straight away heading off like by tracing like the stone. Like I was like the fandom problem was like heading over to that precise location, towards and finally reaching that location where like on the cliff where like Floro still would be like abandoned and Floro would be hungry and Floro would be tired and exhausted, badly exhausted. It's like the scenario that I'm looking for. Like by the time like the final promoters will be making it to that location, Floro will be totally badly tired and exhausted. It's like the scenario that I'm looking for. So like at that point, the purpose is like them finding Flora there and I was like straight away like Machi like I was going to know what like the Machi is like Machi has all the spring power like I was going to be like Machi that would be like would be able to like climb all the way up to like the top of that cliff and will be like seeing Flora there and basically there like I'm also bring like Maki would be like probably asking Floro as to like where Pakunoda is like and basically what happened and all that. But like I'm also like Floro not saying anything at all. But like at the same time like I'm also like Floro like totally using his speech like I'm also like Floro quickly giving that into like Pakunoda writing on the ground Floro at that point with using his speech like writing on the ground that basically he can't communicate to like Toriodan like and also like since like stereotypes like basically by stereotypes for become and like the each of the kind of like the kind of role like basically definitely Flora is bring like the uh, Floro basically like using his feet like throwing on writing onto the ground that he doesn't have any net powers as well as like he can't communicate with like any of them. Like so like Floro just writing that itself like I was will be more than enough for like the clever enough Machi to like basically quickly able to like get what Floro is like trying to communicate. It's like the scenario that I was perfect. So especially since like Kurapika's second condition was like basically for like Chloro to like not have any verbal communication with like the any of like the Riodans as well as to not have any physical contact conversation like Chloro even like hinting the things as well by writing it on to like the ground the like Chloro would be static. It's like the scenario that I'm looking for. So like the scenario that I'm explaining is like Machi using her string powers to like basically tie Chloro. So like without making any physical contact, like Machi using her string powers and then strings and basically tying Chloro and basically that way like Machi was viewing Chloro from like that cliff or from like the top of the cliff and bringing Chloro back to the ground. That's the scenario that I'm looking for. And then I was bringing Machi revealing to like the remaining final members as for like the kind of like the situation with like Floro. And at that point, I was referring like that final member who was totally against like the doing like the exchange in like a fair manner. Like I was referring like him totally not wanting Floro, like him feeling that basically Floro without his like manpower would be totally useless and unworthy of like being like the leader of like the final group anymore. But like I'm assuming like it will be precisely that Shell as well as that final group member who can fire bullets versus like this like that will be like probably uh, saying that basically even without manpowers that basically Floros like way more deserving and qualified to be like the leader of like the final group than all the other members of like the fandom group, even with like network, like basically you know the line thing saying and things appearing in that convention and basically the majority of the fandom group members agreeing and that way like Zoro once again becoming like getting back the leader position of like the fandom group, like the scenario that I'm looking for. So Chloro without making direct verbal communication like I'm about to bring this. So like at that point of the something like Chloro without any direct verbal communication or like any physical contact. Still I'm bring Chloro most likely through writing like I'm bring Chloro still possibly communicating with like the remaining Riorans and basically like Chloro's like decision at that point as like once again as like the leader of the Phalanx like Chloro's decision would be for like the Phantom Group to like go their separate way for like the time being and basically that like Chloro would be like totally holding another meeting of like the Phantom Group eventually in like the future and Chloro would be letting them know of like that day when Chloro would be ready to like hold another meeting of like the Phantom Group where like he will be like revealing the next moves that the Phantom Group and like a group is going to make. Basically, Chloro just like maybe possibly writing that down and basically Chloro straight away leaving York University as well as like the remaining Phantom Group members like temporarily for like the time being leaving York University and going their separate ways temporarily for like the time being. This is like the scenario that I'm going to like another impression. So like definitely was very interesting that you know those like even though I'm just looking like Cloros like ultimate goal would be most likely to like basically silence or like all the big shots who will be like spreading like the ideologies of like the like even to like the like to like silence all of those big shots might be that Cloros like ultimate goal. And those bring still like Loro will be like even to the person like Loro will or they saying that basically he would need like a lot of money for him to like achieve such a goal because of like these big shots would be like having like exceptionally strong fighters army with them. It's like the scenario that I'm delivering. So like definitely to like bring them all down and silence all of them like basically like and that way to like put an end to like the spreading of like the ideologies of the trail as it matter. To achieve this would be like Loros ultimate goals that you surrender. So like not to achieve this like Loros would be like the only thing that basically he would need like the fan pro would need to like grow even more in like and greater in like number as well as like he would need a whole lot of money as well as like millions of dollars. So like to increase like the number of like the fan pro might be increase the limbs of like the fan pro might be like such a reason for like Loro having sent most likely might have friends like it might be protected according to Florus or that will be shared as well as it might have entered like the hunters exam in like the past. It's definitely going to be really good. So like them entering like the hunters exam might be like them totally searching for like new fresh strong talent and unique and powerful talent with like potential individuals with like potential that like they could like so eventually lure or like get them to like join like the fan group it's definitely might be like the reason for sole reason for like chloro as well as like Hisoka uh possibly being sent to like attend like the another exam might have been what can happen in like the past technique might have been result of definitely my technical impressions that like chloro would be like totally uh like because like chloro would be the only thing that you would need a lot of money to like basically destroy and bring down all this like big shots and like the who spread like the ideology of like the galactic matron as well as like the ideologies so it's definitely not a so like I'm going to try like you know to like make this like huge quantity of huge sum of money would be like the right reason for like Cloro having so far from like the past like even to the present like Cloro having done so much like collecting of this like rare and valuable items like and even like the wipeout of like the entire US like the total land like the past to just to like steal all of the startup to see that all to like eventually sell all that like rare and valuable items into like to basically to collectors and basically that way to like make a lot of money that way so that like Floro would only think that like a lot of money would be like only required for like Floro to achieve like ultimate person. It's definitely method for me. So this would be the reason for Floro even to the present like is really infiltrating and stealing all the valuable items from like the underground auctions and everything. It's also definitely method for me. Also, like the other possibility that I'm looking for everything is basically like Pakunoda alliance to talk at like how it might have been formed and the different like maybe might have been through like in like the past like maybe in like the past like Pakunoda might have just touch like Hisoka and straight away read like the memories of like Hisoka in like the past. It definitely made a connection. So like maybe without like Hisoka, like maybe with that episode that like Pakunoda might have managed to like read Hisoka's memory at some point in like the past. It definitely made a connection. So at that point, like, and maybe like Pakunoda might have done this with like each of like the fans point of like maybe like even after like Pakunoda might have infiltrated into like the fandom group with that absolute intent to like eventually get revenge on Chloro by taking Chloro's life, like, and even though that might have been like the ultimate goal of Pakunoda, like still for Pakunoda to like achieve that goal, like Pakunoda might have still felt apprehending like the fandom group and realizing the ultimate strength, the biggest strength of like see the strength of like each of the fandom group and of like Pakunoda might have at that point might have planned to like basically get herself annihilate. Uh, Pakunoda might have only said that she won't be able to like bring down Flora by herself, like that she will need an ally. So like from that day on, like that realization, Pakunoda might have stealthily like read like the memories of like each of like, the members of like the final group. So like and like while Pakunoda might have read like the memories of each of like, the remaining members of like the final group, like Pakunoda might have been disappointed with on seeing like their loyalty to like Flora. But like I was saying, eventually Pakunoda might have ended up steadily reading Hisoka's memories, and at that point might have been fact Pakunoda might have realized that Hisoka is like an actual infiltrator into like the Phantom Group and not even like a member of like the Phantom Group. That it's not even loyal to like the Phantom Group. That Hisoka's only goal is to like have that ultimate one fight against that floor or like Pakunoda might have stealthily read this memory of Hisoka in like the symbol definitely different. And that might be like it might be after that, like I'm looking at Pakunoda might have stealthily approached one day might have stealthily approached Hisoka and might have thrown Hisoka out on basically Hisoka's like destroying PG like the final group and basically Hisoka goal being to have like the like one fight against like Loro. So like Pakunoda at that point might have told Hisoka that Chifu wants to like break down floor also like Pakunoda might have talked to like Hisoka about like the idea of like an alliance between like Pakunoda and Hisoka. That might have been how like the alliance between like Pakunoda and Hisoka might have been formed in like the distant past. It's also like about the that I'm considering and not remember. Okay, so like but me not remember Richmond right now. So like right now Hisoka revealing Hisoka through prophecy to Pakunoda that basically it being that basically Hisoka would be like probably fighting Chloro on Wednesday. So like I'm assuming 2 days that this very night will be like exactly the night of Wednesday, definitely on the remember. So that since like the fortune poem, the true fortune of like prophecy of like Hisoka says that he would probably since the word probably would be present like I was even like Hisoka even throwing like the card at Chloro. Hisoka totally getting pumped to like fight Chloro and Hisoka even throwing like the card towards like Chloro. Yet at like the very last moment like Hisoka stopping while realizing that Chloro is powerless. Like all that would be like accounting to that whole probability of like Hisoka fighting Chloro as per like the prophecy. It's definitely necessary and and that basically Hisoka leaving like the spiders on that very day. Then the is that property as well right now coming through like Hisoka right now leaving like the final group. And on top of that, like basically the like the prophecy saying that basically on that very day, I think like itself like basically half of like the fan number of members would be like from the number of like fan number of members would be reduced to half like and like that would be probably happening as well. But not through like the depth of like half of like the fan number of members, but like and that only happening through once like the remaining kind of members that like the base would be like finding out about like their leader floor of having lost all of his like powers and him not being able to like verbally even communicate to or have physical contact with like the remaining panel of members with like the remaining railroads like and that realization when that information will be like revealed to the remaining final program. But at that point, like definitely was a huge quarrel to happen, a split of opinions and like a huge quarrel happening amongst like the panel program that is definitely going to break. And that split of opinions and like that quarrel, huge quarrel, and the sparring would be eventually resulting where like one one half of like the remaining planet members will be of like the decision that like Chloro is still like even among them like even with like Chloro right now not having the pregnant powers and not being able to like communicate with them like still even when compared to like the remaining planet members like definitely Chloro is still way more worthy than qualified than to of like the position of being like the leader of like the planet maybe along the lines like half of like the kind of members would be of like the opinion of them. They will be of like the opinion that like they should like basically still go after and chase after like the chain user and find a way or like they should like somehow find a way to like undo like the intelligence of Chloro then bring Chloro back. That would be like the decision and like opinion of like half of like the final members while like the remaining half of like the final members members bring at that point to be of like the opinion that like Chloro someone who so easily got caught by like the change of even Flora even while being like the leader the fact that he so easily got caught by like the changes of as well as like him right now being in like such a weakened state with like him not even having access to and power or even being able to like contact with themselves like the real and the members of the band group like that way Flora's in order to like for like the leader Flora of like the band group like ending up in such a state that Chloro is like not qualified or even worthy to be to stay at like the position as like the leader of the panel group. So like basically Chloro should be like removed from like the panel group and like a new leader should be has to be formed. A new leader should happen for like the panel. Like this would be like the opinion for like the remaining half like the panel group members, the opinion of the members. So like I'm considering this like coalition among these two opinions happening, where like I'm referring like the Phantom Group members who would be of the decision that like a new leader or need to happen for like the Phantom Group like them totally eventually that through like the quarrel like eventually resulting in like most likely that half of like the Phantom Group members who might have wanted like a new leader for like the Phantom Group totally deciding to like leave, eventually being fed up and deciding to like leave like the fandom from like the fandom for good permanently is like the scenario that I was in. That way, like half of the fandom members like leaving for good from like the fandom group, like the scenario that I was in. And that way, like once again, like the prophecy coming through is like the scenario as for like the fandom groups, as for like the spider losing like half of its limbs would be definitely bring that prophecy ending up through in such a manner, like the scenario that I'm giving. So like I was wondering, like it would be just like a Floro as well as like half of like the kind of group members at that point. That would be part of like the kind of group that Floro and half of like the kind of the members who totally believe in Floro even after like Floro having lost his like members and his ability to like be able to like communicate with like the his like uh so, like ability to be able to like communicate with like the remaining panel members. Like even after Flora losing all that, like still those half of the panel members who will be like still believing in like Flora and seeing Flora there as being there. Those members and Flora would be like all that would be left to like the panel at that point. Is like the in the scenario that I'm working on the right and not very much. So like making us very position right now as like Hisoka right now while in like they are still like Hisoka right now selling Pakunoda that like smoothly that Hisoka he doesn't like broken toys that he has no interest in like broken toys then that like he can escape now like by he can escape now that Hisoka is saying that while pressing on his phone will be precisely Hisoka like by like saying that like Hisoka won't be referring to like Floro in the Floro like current situation in like abandoned floor of like our abandoned like situation on top of like the question like flora without his network. Like the what would the flora still being able to like escape won't be what his would be like talking about right now. As, because like his right now would be messaging not like the other fan and group members to like get flora or anything like his would be precisely messaging to like precisely Illumi that basically Hisoka by saying that we can escape now that Hisoka would be like only talking about Illumi that like Illumi can now escape and not have to like wait anymore at like the base of the fan process like so like and right now with like Pakunoda then phoning like the remaining fan members and basically lying to like the remaining fan members that basically their boss like Chrollo have been released and that like they are on our way. Like I'm also bring that as well. I'm also bring that Pakunoda would be like consciously lying by lying in such a manner to like the remaining final four members like such a perception only due to like Hisoka as well as like Pakunoda having that same common goal to take a lot of life. It's definitely my preference. So like right now, as like Hisoka and Pakunoda are going the separate ways, like both Hisoka as well as Pakunoda will be talking or confidently saying that basically Chrollo is definitely going to die while being trapped on top of that in like an abandoned state while being trapped on top of like that huge steep and tall cliff. It's definitely my preference, and I'm still taking my preference and like them both Hisoka and Pakunoda as well as like confident, all of them like totally being totally outsmarted by Chrollo. It's like by Chrollo brilliance is like the scenario that I'm observing. Certainly because like I'm definitely the panel of members that certainly catching up to that and reaching the Chrollo would be is like the scenario that I'm observing. So we definitely throw that continue with the shambles, definitely there would be a stone in that Chrollo's pocket and the fake clone of that stone will be presented with that photography right now. It's definitely a premise. And using that stone, like I'm saying, for remaining panel of members, like being able to, even though Pakunoda right now has lied to like the remaining panel of members, and even while saying that like Pakunoda is on their on her way with like the boss to like the way to the random of like I'm saying right now, Pakunoda will only heading back to like some other totally different location out of like your city. It's definitely not the remember that. So like Pakunoda will also anticipate with only all confidently thinking that basically was like the Phantom Troop, remaining Phantom Troop members not having any idea at all as to like where exactly their Chloro is. Like Chloro would be like trapped on top of like that abandoned cliff, tall cliff, and basically would be like starving to death. Would be along the lines like Hisoka as well as like Wakanoda would be constantly thinking. But like I'm also specifically remember information that like with this like stone that I'm bringing most likely will be present in like Chloro's pocket, which will be like the fake clone of that stone, which will be present with like sort of be like by tracing that stone, like the remaining panel of members like linear to like make it to where Chloro would be. And at that point is when I'm trying like the whole fight between and at that point is when I'm remembering like the whole fight between like and split of opinions happening between like the fandom remaining fandom members with like the scenario that I'm so referring where like I'm still thinking about the revolution it would be like the uh, half of like the fans of members who will be like still supporting of Chloro even without Chloro and powers and like losing its ability to communicate with the fans of members still the half of the transition members who still want Flora to remain as their leader to be like the only fan of members that will be remaining in like the fan of group, while the remaining fan of group, the remaining half like the fan of group members will be least purposely leaving like the fan of group. Solely due to like them feeling that like they are too good for like a group like a fan of group whose like leader itself is has ended up in such a weak and failed state it's definitely my percentage and production for like living scenario that I'm considering and only person. And definitely still thinking about the person that like Pakunoda would be definitely the daughter of like the Galactic and the source of definitely one of the person that I'm thinking of. But also like definitely the person right now with like Pakunoda showing up to like the base of like the family group right now with like a weapon and also that would definitely be impact like the actual Pakunoda and it definitely won't be like neither Illumine or Illumine system like playing the whole disguise kind of like a strategy to like escape from like the race of self that won't be the case and like the Pakunoda that has shown up with like the weapon to like the way of the panel this would be like the actual pan that this would be like the actual Pakunoda's definitely and this would be like Pakunoda intent right now would be to like precisely uh Pakunoda right now to like take her life and basically under like that will be like Pakunoda plan to ensure that basically absolutely none of like the kind of group members goes out and looks for or searches for like Floro. That would be what Pakunoda would be wanting that way to like ensure that Floro dies. To ensure that like none of like the fan group members like searches for Floro and that way like to maximize like the possibility of like Chrollo with like none of like the final group members. It's like the none of the final group members working for Chrollo like that way to like ensure like the mobility of the certain step or like Chrollo would be which would like Pakunoda would be totally thinking will be like the reason for like Pakunoda right now deciding to like stop to like fandom group big while holding a weapon stepping over the so, like right now because like what Pakunoda would be right now telling the remaining kind of group members with like them asking where is like the boss like I'm going to like Pakunoda right now most likely revealing to like the remaining kind of group members that she is like the daughter of like the galactic matron whom Chrollo had basically taken the life of in that section. But so like basically she took that like Pakunoda took her revenge. Pakunoda was like allied with like Hisoka and basically Pakunoda and Hisoka together took the life of Chrollo and was like maybe working with like the changes or maybe along the lines of those different Pakunoda to tell them and that them all like took the life of that Chrollo. And that's why like they all got revenge from Chrollo. Like and I was putting Pakunoda. It would be along the lines of putting like Pakunoda telling that the remaining planet members would be sort of spin the embrace at that point that they would be like charging towards Pakunoda to like attack at Pakunoda, but like even before that like like but like even before that like Pakunoda using the weapon and ending up dying. Even before that, it's like the scenario that I was putting and was yes, so like, but you know, with the interesting right now with like Nobunaga right now being alive, like I'm thinking, so like back when like Kurapika had they told Nobunaga to like bring Gon and Killua to like this specific location, and that's when like literally like Nobunaga being found like lying on the floor with like Gon and Killua beside Nobunaga tied up in the side of stage like that. And the during then like Nobunaga might have or might have happened to be Nobunaga might have totally fallen asleep while on his job. Might have been what might have happened back then. It was definitely not of the temperature. So that's that. And then the different my temperature right now was like Pakunoda firing like then bullet and basically six members of like the Phantom Group like I was putting like the player right now was like no banana totally like trying to convince like bunch of like the Phantom Group members with like extremely suspicious of like Pakunoda and just like Nobunaga telling that Phantom Group member that believe that something along the lines that this is like the real Pakunoda that definitely happens to like Nobunaga as well as that those like six Phantom Group members right now will be only getting tricked by Pakunoda is like the scenario that I was saying. Those six Phantom Group members that right now are considering to have their life taken by Pakunoda through like the like the scenario that I'm right. So like but still I'm has to like those exact and that way like the prophecy ending up being true with like the fight of losing half of his limbs on that very night happening is that in such a manner like the scenario that I'm yet like I was like my consideration that like those lead bullets would still be like actual bullets that would be having like the power to take their lives. But like I was like it would be also like Pakunoda would have also infused her memories as well into her memories from like recent past as well into those bullets. It's like my consideration. So like I was like those exact members of like the random group right now through the nine bullets are right now dying, but like right before they die, like I'm looking them to like see what actually happened with like Chrollo, as well as like the reason for like what currently happened with like Chrollo and as for like Pakunoda lying to like the those kind of members and all that about like her bringing Chrollo and all that. And basically the connection with like Pakunoda and like the galactic matter Pakunoda being like the daughter of like the galactic matter, and Chrollo in like the distant past, like having taken the life of like, the galactic matter. Pakunoda having seen that, and basically that way Pakunoda eventually aligning with Hisoka, and basically like Hisoka aligning with like the change with her, and basically them all collectively eventually like basically like granting and like abandoning like Chrollo, their boss leader Chrollo in that precise cliff, tall cliff right now, like right now as the and like them all gaining this memory through those nine bullets, but like even though they will be gaining the memory, like once they will be coming out of like after like seeing the visuals of the memory, like it just like them shockingly realizing that like they are dying through like the end bullet this time. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. That way, six of those fan of group members like dying without being able to like pass on the information to like the other fan of group members. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. Them dying, just that absolute shock and maybe with that absolute shock and disappointment, like those six members of like the fan of group uh, having been taken their life off by Pakunoda right now. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at right now. So, okay, so like the new mandatory ambition right now was like Pakunoda using name to like and basically ending up there. Like I'm looking like it will be something that Pakunoda might have already done consciously as like to basically give herself as like a punishment for like from Pakunoda's point of view, like the confusion that Pakunoda might have initially had to pick as per like the proper page to like pick between that pride and betrayal. Like I'm also from like certainly what facilitates like it was like Pakunoda's like decision initially felt to like basically prioritize like even way more than anybody else to like basically prioritize like the safety Flora. So like definitely not going to be a question right now. It's basically that definitely Flora might have been someone who might have saved Pakunoda's life in that distant past, and basically Pakunoda might have had that absolute gratitude, extreme gratitude towards like the person Flora. That like Pakunoda might have never been able to like see Flora as like the leader of like the planet kind of role, but like Pakunoda might have only seen Flora as like her best friend. So definitely my good friend. So like she might have had that genuine affection and personal kind of like an affection towards like Floro. She might have only been even to the present life might have only been able to like see Floro as Floro and not as like the leader of this kind of it's definitely my good friend. So this might be the while for the case of like Masi as well as Chrollo, like I'm taking them prioritizing like Floro's ambassador life and survival that will be solely due to that both Marty as well as sort of the like basically being so extremely dependent on like flow of like superior capabilities and things that like that would be the sole reason for like this would be solely due to that feeling of dependency and insecurity of like basically um, for like the fandom group insecurity in within them, or like they were only feeling that like they wouldn't be able to that the fandom group won't be able to that progress any further with it, like they lose or like they would like both sort of it Marty will be having such extreme thought of like dependency on Floro, and this will be the best reason for like Marty as well as sort of like really wanting Floro to like survive and to do the exchange according to like Rafika's sort of and everything is definitely influencing. But in like the case of like Patanora, it might have been that extreme gratitude and like that extreme feeling of like genuine affection towards like the person flaws that like Patanora might have never been a like Floro as like the leader of like, the kind of group. And hence like even the teachings of like Floro as like the leader of like, the kind of group that basically to basically prioritize like the survival of the spiders even more than like the head of like spider. Uh, basically that teaching like basically Pakunoda only betraying that teaching of Flora as like a leader. So specifically because of Pakunoda not being able to like treat Flora as like the leader of the divine group, but like Flora, Pakunoda seeing Flora as her like best friend. It's definitely one of the memories. So like especially because of this reason like Pakunoda while trying to like ensure like the survival of Floro, like I'm saying Pakunoda might have never seen at all. Might have never expected for like Floro through like the same user like for Floro to like lose all of like Floro like Nen powers as well as to for Floro to like not be able to like even communicate at all to like any like sign of problems of like such a situation happening for like Floro through like the same user during the exchange might have been like through like changes or might have been something that like Barcelona might have never been able to like foresee was definitely my observation. And when that happened, like like and even with like Kurapika revealing that and like even when Kurapika revealed and like asked Floro if like asked Barcelona if like Barcelona's okay with like Kurapika that basically using like the change that exact change judgment with like the tune and conditions on floor or like basically at that point like Panther not even saying okay might have been solely due to like even at that point Pakunoda being desperate that basically even if Chrollo loses all its members and is not able to like communicate with like loses the ability to communicate with like the remaining final problem, but still like Pakunoda might have been desperate for this like desperate Chrollo to survive and that's Pakunoda might have agreed. But like as soon as she might have agreed, like after that, like seeing Chloro without any powers and literally just lacking, not being able to like speak anything at all, to him losing his like ability to communicate with like the families of members like with me. Seeing Chloro in such a state might have threatened that absolute extreme guilt within Pakunoda, like and guilt and that extreme feeling of like a betrayal of Chloro will be along the lines betrayal of Flora and like betrayal of the standard group will be like such a strong guilty kind of like a feeling might have set in within Pakunoda from that point on. The English might have been very good. So at that point like Pakunoda might have wanted to like to basically do whatever it is that he can just like the uh, from that point on to make things right as much as it would be possible for her from that point on. So like my good impressions are like at that point after like Pakunoda might have already strongly felt that absolute guilty feeling of that as if like she has so been betrayed Floro and like the fans. But at that point like Pakunoda might have felt that basically at least she needs to like conserve like the pride of like Floro so like you know to like conserve that pride of like Floro and the like Pakunoda might have then took the decision to like basically follow that Floros like teaching as like the leader of like the fan approach that basically survival of the spiders being like more important than that the survival of like the chest of like the spider. Like basically especially the, like Pakunoda had disobeyed this like teaching of Floro and Pakunoda will be probably feeling as like her act of like disobeying of that teaching of Floro is what resulted has now resulted in like Floro's current situation like I'm considering like that kid might have got Pakunoda to take the decision to like make things right like Pakunoda might have felt like basically to for her to like it might have been Pakunoda's attempt to like basically correct her wrong by basically following the teachings of Floro at that point and basically that way like prioritizing like the survival of like the spider more than the survival of like the head of Flora, especially like Flora having lost its powers, like basically to also conserve Flora pride as well, like and like Pakunoda might have decided to like basically abandon Flora and basically prioritize that the remaining fandom development of Fellow and basically abandon Flora and basically Pakunoda might have felt that basically that would be more of like a prideful death for like Floro. It might be like so that like Floro Pakunoda might have felt that maybe so that like Floro will like die with pride. Might be along the line Pakunoda might have felt. So that way like after like the betrayal Pakunoda might have taken the decision of pride. And basically Pakunoda might have and that would be the precise reason for like Pakunoda abandoning Floro on top of that cliff and Pakunoda might might not only thought that this Floro is definitely not going to survive, Floro is definitely going to die there. So like I'm just looking at Pakunoda, then taking the decision to like basically show up to like the base of like the panda trope and using the name called as like Pakunoda, even like basically precisely uh putting in like the two memories of like basically Floro's teachings of like the head of like spider survival of like the spiders being more important than the head of like spider and like precisely like the memory of like Gon and Silva telling Pakunoda that basically like their talk their dialogue about like their friendship to like the change news of basically as like so basically like by putting these two memories, specifically memories, these two specific memories of like the teachings of Loro and like the friendship, Pagnoda's friendship towards like Loro. This would be like what Pagnoda might have been trying to like make like the remain four six random group members, the original six members of like the random group members, like basically understand through like those name go like that basically it might have been most likely Pakunoda trying to like make them understand that basically Pakunoda totally messed up, and basically it was like the reason Pakunoda messed up was like the situation is like Pakunoda was in like Pakunoda, it was too difficult for like Pakunoda to like pick between like Chloro's teaching as well as like Chloro's friendship, like which to like prioritize more, like basically that being too difficult of like to choice or like Pakunoda to choose, which has resulted in like situation Pakunoda ending up messing up like the whole thing, and then Pakunoda through like the end bullets like might have been totally delivering that absolute punishment for herself by through like the end bullets, and by like consciously Pakunoda might have actually consciously broken like the broken like her own like name condition as like a punishment that like Pakunoda might see like only might have totally consciously given to herself for like totally messing up like the whole thing. Uh, might have been what might have happened. Is certainly my personal remember. So like in short, like now Pakunoda's death might have been like the punishment that Pakunoda might have decided for herself. So it's definitely my personal remember. Okay, so like the music is very interesting right now with like Pakunoda dying, and straight away like one of like the fan interest members, like I think his name is like Pink, like straight away saying like I now know everything about like Pakunoda, like this, and even while he says that like I'm but like it will be only with that those exact memories that Pakunoda gave him, and with like he would be like he and those six fan group members who got like the gun bullets, like and they won't be at all right now aware of like the situation with like Flora, that little Flora has lost his like manpowers as well as like the won't be Flora has lost his like communication to like the fan group as well. These two things I'm considering like uh, definitely everything like the things as well as those six Panabro or as well as the remaining Panabro members won't be at all aware of. Like Sakura might have it's definitely my good impression. So definitely the scenario that I'm still thinking on is definitely that like even right now with like Floro like speaking of like the prophecy that she had like predicted like earlier about like him like basically having to head east to find like new storm rage who's like waiting for Chloro, like basically definitely the people like in like the east direction from where Chloro will be right now standing on top of that cliff, tall, extremely steep and tall cliff, like towards the east. Definitely there will be like a comrade that will be waiting for Chloro, and then the different like that was going to be either a total stranger or like someone whom Chloro might have known from like Christian past, which is never the but like and I was running through that person would be like the key through which like Chloro will be eventually in like Christian Peter will be able to like it will be through his help that I was running like Christian Peter Chloro would be able to like still undo his like Chloro's like name condition for name condition that's like involved from Chloro. It's definitely there is a scenario that I'm even while for Apika would be alive like I'm like Chloro still being able to like undo that tenant conditions on in like the eventual distant future through this precise comrade that Chloro without much great delay at all would be like eventually meeting while traveling to like the east direction. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. But like still my personal impression that like right now with like Chloro not having any non powers at all, like Chloro definitely won't be able to like by himself will be at all able to like get down from that tall steep cliff. It's definitely one of the temperature. So like the scenario that I'm switching on to is definitely for like they are definitely possibly being like stone in like floor of pocket. This like I'm looking at only putting that stone within like floor of pocket, like basically considering like the fake floor of that stone being with like pot of is definitely member everything. Using with which like I'm possible like pot of as well as like the remaining panels of members will be heading off and tracking slow down is like the scenario that I'm looking. So like this entire time, like the fact that like my revelation that even while photography might have perfectly known like the direction using the stone, like even while photography might have known the film. This entire time was like the precise direction in which like floor of walking up, floor of getting up like the sole reason for like photography and like the kind of members not being able to like make it towards like Chrollo would be solely due to like the presence of Senritsu and Senritsu alone because of like Senritsu being able to like give like sense whenever like if like the panic group even decides to like chase after them. Like solely due to like this barrier only like the sole reason for like for topic as well as like the remaining final group members like not being able to like try to like save Chloro themselves is definitely one of the reality, even though they might have known like the exact direction where Chloro will be. So definitely one of the mission. So like right now with like Pakunoda returning and right now with like Pakunoda that like I'm considering like the remaining final group members are right now. I'm considering like maybe more like maybe call topic right now because only right now that call topic will be like revealing to like the remaining final group members about like the stone is like the scenario that I'm considering. Or like the remaining fan person should be aware of it. So like anyway, this it could be either one of these two possibilities. Then I'm considering like all those fan group members like heading off to like the say, location where like Flora would be, and then like I'm connecting to this precisely with like Matthew's spring powers, like Matthew will be getting to the top of the cliff, and like still thinking about the permission, like Flora, that Flora's like feet will be like giving hints as to like Flora's like current situation. So like at that point, like Machi using her spring powers and helping Flora down from the top of that cliff without making physical contact or without any verbal interaction with like Flora. So that and Flora as well not interacting with like Machi is like the scenario that I'm presented. So like one like Spring and like the other planet members find out about like Flora's kind of situation. Where like Flora can use powers and Flora can communicate with them. Like at that point, I was even like half of the kind of members like totally leaving straight away, leaving like the planet room group. It's like the scenario that I was looking. And this would be how like the spiders will be losing six of its limbs will be perfectly happening to such a manner. It's definitely one of the remove them. And those planet group members that will be like leaving and the so like even with the repressions like once like, at that point once like Flora would be brought down from like held down from that top of that cliff with like Mercy's help like at that point once like Flora reaches like the ground like at that point Silver is like Flora straight away walking towards like the east direction like the scenario that I was going to fix up like the final was straight away leaving like the final while the remaining would be like following after like Flora without any interaction or like without any physical contact. Like they will be following after like Flora. And I was when Flora walking towards like the east direction. And then I was like Flora as well as those six kind of members like meeting this like new character who would be just character who I'm possible like this mysterious character who I'm possible like either feel like actually a mysterious character who like this none of them like neither Flora nor those six planet members would be having an idea at all as to like who that person is who I'm possibly eventually becoming like the comrade of like Flora and those six kind of members. That like one scenario that I'm considering, or like that precise person, that comrade that like Flora will be meeting as she will be at that point walking towards like this direction, being like someone Flora might have known from like the distant past of Flora. It's definitely my better critic. So like that way that was comrade like the final group, six member final group at that point along with like Flora getting like a new comrade is like the scenario that I'm considering. And like it will be like the comrade from that point on that will be like bringing about like all that extreme entire change and making like giving new hopes to like the six member fan group including with like Flora as well. For like the six member fan group as well as Flora as well. Like this definitely the eventual scenario that I'm looking forward to.